All right, and we are live. The last word with Lord Cognito and Ebontis. Friday night campfire. What is going on, sir? Do we have a guest?
We do have a guest, a returning guest, an awesome gentleman here who lives in the world of max triumph score, always aspiring to be top in the Destiny world. There's not too much left. I think you might have one or two things that you saw you were working on, but we'll cover that here in a sec. But yeah, it's been an interesting week. Lots of stuff to talk about. Lots of controversial topics. So yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting one.
All right, let's introduce the man. So welcome to The Last Word, episode number 104. It's another glorious Friday. We're back in front of the campfire for some more looter-shooter discussion. I'm extremely excited about our special guest, so we're going to get right into it. I want to introduce a Lord whom is an absolute pleasure to stop by the Destiny Campfire for some informative discussion. Not only is this Lord one of our most passionate and hardcore members of the community, but by earning every Guardian Games triumph, has absolutely earned the right to take a break from Season of the Worthy. Introducing our favorite Guardian from Clan Concern and one of the best IT guys in the game. Fellow friend of Fireteam Chat, fellow Warlock main, and the most elite Xbox controller user on PC.
That's right.
That's right. Live from California and making his return into the realm of the last word. My man, Lord TeasingTeddy. How we doing, sir?
That intro is even better than the last one. I don't know how you talk yourself. I'm doing all right, hanging in there. Hopefully you guys are doing the same. And thank you again for having me. This is always fun to talk about something we're very passionate about. So
absolute pleasure to have you, brother. Good to have you back, man. Got a lot to talk about, a lot to catch up, a lot going on in the world, man. Otherwise than that, have you been playing Destiny again? I know we talked offline. You took a break a little bit. I think you took a break around the same time I took a break. So I mean, how's that going with Destiny in particular?
This season has been obviously a little lackluster, to say the least. Yes. I've been playing very on and off. The last month I got really busy, so I kind of haven't been playing as much as I wanted to, but I still would just jump on to do whatever was relevant at the time. So when Almighty became available for the title, when the Felwinter's Quest became sort of available and then not available and then available again. So I just get on when I need to. And this weekend I'm actually going to knock out Conquer. I'll probably do it after this podcast is my goal to knock that out. I only have the two more left.
I've heard Tree of Probabilities boss room is dicey. I watched a couple of people working on it. Yeah, I watched, it was Cognito and Scaro. No, not Cognito. Pyro and Scaro. Both were working on, what was the first one? Broodhold. They worked on that one, and then it's all up in the rotation, so you can pick any of the ones you need to work on. And then I watched some Tree of Probabilities, just hours working on that one. So it's just the dicey room. So I just wanted to ask you, actually, since you're talking about Conquer and stuff, I know why you do it. You're going for the title. You're going for the completionist. For sure. Is that where you continue to want to see content go? I'm watching those guys just hide in little corners and do these certain things. I watched Exodus Crash. Same thing. I saw some people just stand on a box strat type thing. So is that where you would like to see content to go? Or is it just to a point of it's hard just to be mean? I wondered what your thoughts on those have been so far. Because I really haven't dove in, but looking at 12 modifiers seems daunting. But if you're just apparently good to go, you seem to knock them out. So I was curious.
In general, I don't necessarily like the Grandmaster Nightfalls. I see what they were going for. I think the thing that the part that I got really salty about was when they announced contests being enabled for it. Because I had prepped very heavily at the beginning of this season, during Season 9, for all this. I stacked a lot of bounties. And then we were playing super hard, me and a bunch of clanmates, to basically go as high as we possibly could in order to, have as much advantage as possible. And then they announced contest. And that put a really big damper on the 6 weeks of effort we had to put in. But then it came out and we started playing them and they weren't that bad. You gotta play a certain way, but I played D1, and that's what we did in D1. You just sat in a corner somewhere and you shot the thing in.
It's just funny to see them try and get away from that now. It's all right, so we're going to sit here with these two Izanagis and this crit thing, or everybody seems to need Ariana's Vow, which is kind of sucks for the people who miss Shadowkeep, because that's a brutal one right now. If you don't have that gun, that's pretty hard on some of these, I've heard.
But it's I wouldn't say they're unfair. I think they actually did quite a good job of balancing the content. Like, they are difficult, but they're not like I feel like some of the other things they've done, it's like the content's very unfair, and you have to play this like very specific way. That being said, for all the grandmasters, you do have to play a specific way and have your loadouts very optimized. But once you understand what you're going up against, it's actually not that bad. Do I like the title? No, I won't put the title on. I won't use it. I do like the concept of that title, and as well as Flawless, because in the same boat where they'll be available every season, but the requirements will shift or change depending on what for Conquer it's the strikes, and then for Trials they haven't exactly said what will change. But I like that idea, because then at least it gives other players who maybe aren't as hardcore or dedicated to chase it after the fact. But it's mainly just a check mark for me at this point. It's like, well, it's the last title I don't have, and I've started this weird tradition that I regret doing back in Season of Opulence, where at the end of every season I have to get all the triumphs that were like I had to get max triumph score, which I currently do have. I just don't have the title because they're all worth 0. So it's
which that bugs the hell out of me.
Yeah, but
I will. That's another thing I'm torn on, but I won't get into that. That's just like a weird nitpick thing.
It's all good. Yeah, man. No, that's what's up, man. So as far as, like I said, I know you did that. I saw the Guardian games when I was just like, God bless his soul, because there's no way.
I went pretty hard on that.
Yeah, bro, that it was just so many bounties, and then like I looked at.
You went 11 for 11 on that one.
Yeah, he knocked that out.
I knocked it out the first 3 days.
Oh, okay. I did it much longer. I was like, I did it, but damn, 3 days? Nope.
I wanted to get it done as fast as humanly possible.
Did you delete the characters to get 3?
Nope.
You were just like as soon as possible type thing.
I after day 2, I basically did the math and was like, okay, I have to do it on all 3 characters, and I have to hope that day 3 the other medals that hadn't popped up at that point pop up, and they did. Thankfully, they were all in like a cycle. And so I played a lot in 3 days, a disgusting amount of time, and then I put the game down. I was like, I'm not touching this game anymore.
Sounds very familiar to me.
That being said, I like Heir Apparent a lot.
Yes.
I think the gun is very cool. It's very unique, very Destiny, and I was kind of glad that I got it like a day before everyone else got it. Because going to Crucible and hitting people with that was pretty funny.
It's you guys that terrorized me. That's what I'm glad you said that. That's what motivated me to get it, because I saw the initial reviews, and most people were looking at it from a PvE perspective. And I'm like, okay, it's cool, chain gun, blah blah blah. But literally, I forgot. I'm gonna say I was playing comp. And it was, survival, 4v4, like, no lives on either side. It's down to them the opposing team having 2, and it was just me. But I've got my Nova Warp charged, and I'm ready to come around the corner. So I guess one of the guys was over there by Heavy, but I'm like, I don't care, it doesn't matter. I got my Nova Warp. I'll just, blink and whatever. Yeah. So he shoots, I blink, poof, one dies, and the other one doesn't die, and he's got this blue aura around him. I'm like, what is going on? So I'm like, all right. Poof again, and he stands there, tanks it, and shoots me, and I'm like, yo, and it says Heir Apparent. I'm like, no, I gotta get this gun. That did it for me, man. I was like, I cannot have anybody else without this gun, because that is a powerful ability, man, especially at PvP, for sure.
It's a fun gun. I think if anything's to be said about Guardian games, that was kind of the highlight of it.
Yes.
It's a very Destiny gun, and I think that's what made it.
That one was a nice addition for sure. Well, it's been an interesting week, more than a couple weeks now, actually. So we do have access to our shotgun of choice, which will be the shotgun that you'll probably see in PvP for approximately 9 months and 3 weeks and counting. I would imagine. CB, great, thank you for tuning in. Previous guest, what's up, sir?
Goat. What's up, CB?
So we have access to that, but yeah, we've got a little bit of a story since between the Last Word podcast, last word, we weren't there yet. We were like counting down, and then it happened over the weekend and all this stuff. So by the time we got here, it's been interesting. So I wanted to ask Cognito first, and then you as well. Yeah. As all of the events of the Felwinter's quest transpired, just kind of what was your journey through it, thoughts, and just kind of everything about it. So
journey. Oh man, it's not a fun story because, like I said, I was been very upset with Destiny. Let's just say that I've been They're not happy. Like Teddy said, Heir Apparent was literally the only reason why I pushed through Guardian games, right? We all knew the Felwinter quest was coming. So I'm like, all right.
Not everybody. Some people didn't know.
That is true. That is true. But those in the know, so we like, all right, cool. And like I said, the last word. I started out and, I saw the public event requirement. I mean, I went to Enter Bray, then you go to see the public event requirement. I'm like, okay, cool. Let me do my first Seraph Tower. And then I saw no percent. I mean, I saw 1%, but I saw nothing really elevate on the bar. And I said, oh no. I was like, so this is a community focused thing. And I'm just like, nah, Bungie, I can't. I'm not ready for this. So I promptly said I'm being on strike and I'm going to let the community do this because I didn't want my time wasted. So I'm sitting there watching from the outside. Shout out to Sinister. Shout out to you. You guys are always keeping me abreast of what was going on. Then we had the first snafu, obviously, with the bunker and stuff like that. And I'm like, no, the quest is not bugged, so as that went on, I'm like, okay, cool. Then I think it was, I'm going to say a Sunday that late Sunday that it happened. And it
Sunday about 11 o'clock my time, so it was pretty close to the end of the evening.
Right. So then once I heard it was advanced, I was happy that they were able to get in front of that. And obviously, we heard about the fix and all that other stuff. And then at that point, I'm like, okay, I'll get back in. So I'm about to embark on it. Obviously, you have stories because I'm assuming, have the gun already, right? You went through.
I do, yeah.
Yeah, all you guys went through it. I mean, I will say this, as far as the gun itself and the quest as a whole, from a lore perspective, I'm hearing good things. But again, my concern is when a lot of this content is publicly event community based, what it is showing is if there is any problem, right, you have now halted the storyline. You have halted the advancement of the game until you can get this resolved. That's why these quests, in my opinion, are poor, and a lot of the Destiny community is very upset, and not happy with it. But I want to bring it back to you guys. You guys have it. You guys have the gun. Overall, I bring it back to you, Ted. Like, what's your experience of the whole thing? Do you feel it was worth it now that you have it? Like, give me your whole breakdown on the whole the lie, so to speak.
I think the quest in itself was good. Minus the two issues, so I'll break it down. I was really busy the week that it started, and so I was not planning on participating in the Seraph Towers. Even if I did enjoy the Seraph Towers, I would still not have done it. I really don't like the Seraph Towers, if I haven't made that clear. I think they're some of the most poorly designed things. I mean, everyone at Bungie is super talented, and I respect all of them, but Seraph Towers suck. And then when they added the update,
sugarcoating right there, man. Tell us how you feel.
And then when they changed the way they worked for the Almighty title, basically where you have two at the same time, I think that was like the nail in the coffin for them.
Yeah, shout out to IO.
Yeah, basically. And so the quest came out, and I had already known the quest steps because it was data mined pretty early on in the season, and I tend to be very selective on what spoilers I look up because I want to plan around, like, if a quest later in the season is going to take a lot of time, I want to be able to plan my work schedule around that and be able to do that. So I looked it up to an extent to understand what's going on, and I saw that the first step was going to be a community event, and my first reaction was, this is just like another form of time gating. Like, there's no difference between time gating the quest and making the community do something other than there's an active level of participation, but the thing you're making them participate in is not liked by many people, so it was this kind of weird thing, and then obviously it was bugged, or I guess they assumed this number would be
that math number is nuts still.
I think they intended, my theory, I have nothing to back this up, my theory is that they intended for that to last the whole season, and then at some point, during the season, we were supposed to finish it, but for whatever reason, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
So anyway, the community got it, and I had happened to have a small break that night when it got completed. So I was like, all right, I'll jump on. I'll start going through the quest. I got my Shirochi checkpoints, started going to do my shotgun kills, blah blah. And I did it. And then my friends were a little bit ahead of me, and so I was definitely in the Discord, and I came back, and they're all kind of memeing and making fun of stuff, and I was like, what's going on? And they're like, well, the quest is bugged, and they just tweeted it out, and I'm like, well, I'm turning this game off when they fix it. I'll come back to it, and So yesterday when it got fixed, I jumped on quickly before my work stuff, and I grabbed it. And I do really like the story aspect of it. I've always liked Felwinter. Again, a Warlock figure in the lore. So
that's where the short
yeah. I mean, I'm wearing a Forsaken shirt. So
love it. Yeah. Let's go. Warlock, stand up.
Yeah. So I like the story, and I had watched videos of the area that you go to, people glitching into it, but it was cool to kind of see it with like the narrative beat and like and what was going on. So I understand what they were going for, and I appreciate that they fixed it quickly, and they were pretty humble about it.
Yes.
But it really like sucked that it happened at the very end of the season, and it happened after Guardian games, and it happened during this season particularly that just like wasn't that good. And I don't know, it just seems in a weird place right now, and we'll get to that in a bit, I assume. But like it's just like this like tiny drop that just made it so much worse than it actually was. But what do you think?
I need your opinion, man. I'm dying.
No,
you're the one that kept me abreast.
I've been, I jump in occasionally, do a few public events. There was one point I was like, hey, I'll go to the moon. And I saw people like kind of standing around, and people are like doing general chat and stuff, trying to invite. I was like, hey, actually trying to get a group together, be like, hey, we got like 2 people here that need the Almighty. I'm like, all right, I tripped into a group who's actually trying. We stayed there like 2 runs, had it done for whatever random people were there. So I was like, I've done these off and on throughout the season. But as you said, you're like, you get done with Guardian games, the ultimate bounty of specific crazy bounty grinds of all time. And you're like, hey, you need to do this with one hand tied behind your back, throwing your shield at least 20 yards across the field off one bank shot. And I mean, you got to go crazy specific on it. And you're like, hold on. Okay, so that, and you're like, all right, we made it through all the Guardian games. Titans are over there with their little statue that's like just as tall as a Guardian, no bigger.
Yeah, why is the statue so small? But anyway,
okay, in relativity, it is actually like the size of a Guardian. I walked my guy up to it, but you would, I don't know if you would just picture it like, picture like Justice League. How tall is the Superman statue? I'm like, dude, that's like 15 feet tall. That's pretty damn big. Like, how long is this one?
That's what I expected.
Yeah, I was like, and this thing's like just the size of a Guardian walking around the tower. I'm like, just, what were they planning for future years to stack them next to each other? I don't know. But yeah, we make through all that, and then like it kicks off, and we're like, all right, 9 million, and I was just like, holy crap. And then what I was doing at first is I was tracking to see like, okay, so we've done this many to this many, and I started tracking by like hours. So I started tracking at like 4:21 p.m. and I was like, okay, so about 5:21 after an update, I was like, okay, we did this many. I was like, if we stay at this pace, big giant if people don't get tired of this thing, it's going to take this long to do EDZ. And that was like 7 days. And I'm like, we have 4 weeks left in the season. Technically, it could be done if they start falling off. Next day, it got a little bit slower. Like by the time I got to about the 3rd day of tracking just the time of this thing, which is probably when the patch came that it was going to be changed, I was like, European Dead Zone's going to take like 2 weeks and we don't have that much time. I was like, it ain't going to happen. It was going to be like 14 days or 250. I was like, that's not right. It's not going to happen. So,
and then magically.
And then, yeah, I was like, all of a sudden they're like, hey, during the week it's 5x and the weekend is 10x. I was like, how do you it's like, again, as Teddy said, it's like either it was meant to be like, hey, we start this at the beginning of the season, it tracks all season long, which if they did that and that set that expectation, that would probably be fair and be like, hey, every so often you'd be like, hey, I'm on, let me go throw another, public event in the pile because there's 9 million of them and you have 12 weeks to do it. We've been doing these, we worked for our bits, which apparently have no other use, which seems to be really sad because they're going away at the end of the season and we've got like, I've got 7,000 bits. I'm like, I have really nothing to spend them on. So we already grinded enough for all 3 and we've been doing these things, the weekly bounties, and then we're like 9 million. And then when you do that math, the math in this season, as well as many other things, has been a little skewed. Either the Titan, the Hunter waiting math in Guardian games, and the 9 million public events, the waiting has been off. But it's like, it got to that point, I'm like, okay. So even I was just like, all right, so they bumped it up to 5x, and I was like, all right, EDZ is actually tracking, I could see. And then you see Raid Secrets put together the spreadsheet that's tracking, like, the estimated finish time. Did you tag me in that one, actually?
I did.
Yeah, you did. I remember that was you. Yeah, it was like, so I started watching that one, and then they started working on the moon, and it was starting to climb a little faster over the weekend because 10x got going. I was like, okay, this thing's moving. I was like, and then when they were getting ready to finish the moon, I was like, okay, it's like 24 hours later, they're probably going to finish IO. And then I kept checking it, and the estimated time just started walking back. And I'm like, at some point I figured that would slow down. Nuh-uh, it just sped up because it was like noon, and this was like Pacific time. 10, 8, 4 in the morning, like back to like midnight. I'm like, Jesus, it's going to be done in like 90 minutes. So finally, when it gets done, you're like, oh, okay, so the community's coming together behind this thing. Final push. Everybody's on streaming now. And you just watch Twitter be like, hey, we're going to go for this final push. Be it Glad, Dado, Cacus, all these people. About 30 minutes later, Glad, Dado, Skako, going to bed. Sorry, Cognito should not have had anything in his mouth at that point, so he didn't spit it all over his camera.
That was good timing.
But that was how that went. You're like, yes, I got my shotgun kills. You did Serochi. My brother actually got on, which was like, hey, we're sitting there in the Leviathan just trading kills, chatting for a little bit because his birthday was in like 30 minutes from that point. Shout out to my bro. Happy belated again.
Happy belated.
And then all of a sudden we're going through and like you go down in the bunker. You're like, cool. The next step after the kills, you get back out. And I'm like sitting there. And at first I'm kind of with you because I was a little behind and I was like, is there a puzzle? Is there something about Felwinter I don't remember? I need to go look somewhere on the moon, but there's no marker. And then I'm like, is it a puzzle? And then finally, like everybody's starting to say it's bugged. And then finally the official tweet came out from D&G and everybody's just like shutting it down. I was just like,
yeah.
And as you said, it just took the giant wind at the whole community coming together. It's like the quarters of time puzzle being there, and then you going through 29 of the 30 rooms, and the 29th one is like you keep getting an error code or something. It gets to that point or something like that would be the only way I can kind of relate it to anything to get that close, and then it just be like, nope. And especially when they said, hey, they're looking into it, we've got an idea, and they said, hey, they've got to go through testing and certification, I thought it was going to be like another week. So they got to it faster than I thought they would.
Yeah, they did.
I mean, they pushed it a couple days, honestly, when I expected like an easy week. Because, I mean, console certifications can take a little while. They're not going to be an easy fix. Yeah. So they pushed patches out, and it was when I finally got to finish it on, what was it, Thursday? Yesterday? Yeah, it's just been a weird week. Days are still weird. When I finally got to finish it, like going through the little bit of lore that we got, and then I went to go get 200 kills, and you've got the whole lore book, which I do like that. So
question is the lore worthy? Because I need to know. I need the you know, I need your approval. Would you feel it was worthy?
I thought.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
cool.
I thought the story behind. Go ahead, Teddy.
I just watched the Bife video actually before we started recording, and he did
nice.
a whole. Shout out to Bife. He did a whole like 40-minute video on the entire lore book, and it was pretty good actually. I enjoyed it. I went and got the kills for the shotgun lore as well, because unfortunately there's triumph score tied to it. I liked it. It was and it filled in some gaps from what we had previously known about the Iron Lords and stuff. So
I need this Iron Lord lore.
Yeah, it was good.
Okay, good. That's why I wanted to make sure. We understand the issue, but I had to ask that specific part. If the lore was definitely, if they nailed it, I was very curious. You know,
so like just pay attention to the story. Like when you go to play that quest, turn off all distractions. Like pay attention to the story, the little voiceovers and everything. Turn that up and just enjoy it. Because honestly, like it was interesting because I went through that, and then people in my chat were literally discussing like, well, hey, this side of the opinion of what said person did. I'm trying to be very vague since you haven't actually seen it yet.
Please.
But Teddy's like, hey, this person did these things. We can't, we can't forget about those. And this person's like, well, it has been this long since all this has happened, mulling it all over for so long. Maybe there's change in there. And that was what was going back and forth in my chat. And I was just like, So it's like just the fact that chat was actually talking about it, I was kind of going,
okay.
All right.
All right.
But yeah, it's like I like the idea behind that. But again, this is one of those weird things to where, in theory, this is cool. I like also the way it was delivered. For the non-spoilery, you'll know exactly what game I'm picturing they did story delivery like this when you see it.
Gotcha.
And Teddy, I don't know if you played it. It is it's another type of game like this. I'm trying not to spoil it.
I know. You being like you're dancing. I like it. You're dancing.
Do you want me to just tell them how it's delivered? Like,
yeah, you can tell them how it's delivered.
Okay, picture Division story delivery.
I've done the mission. I don't know what you're referencing exactly.
He's stuck in the deceiver chamber. Oh, nice move. Okay,
sorry. Yeah, of course. Just every so often, one little blip. I was gonna say picture Division story delivery.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Something kind of like that.
Okay.
And that's what I've been playing through Neo 2, which I'm like 2 chapters away from finishing. Crazy good game so far. Kicking my butt, by the way. But they do like animated kind of storyboards, like not crazy high fidelity, but picture just like kind of an artist, a brief drawing, and like there's art in there, but it's like it's not fully rendered cutscenes. And it's like, okay, like I want to like if they do something like that or more stuff like this, either way. And again, this fits because of who's telling the story of why it's presented this way. But story, like engaging in story in game, like going to read the lore book in the game. I'm just gonna sit there. Hey, let me pull up my lore tab and sit in the tower and be like, book 1, scroll.
Yeah, no.
Book 2, scroll.
No.
Versus the way it's delivered in this one, I like that a lot more. So more of this I would love to see. And especially as it's being tied to like, hey, this is why you get this gun. And then there's the lore book afterwards. All that stuff's very cool. But again, how in the hell does that tie into the Almighty?
Yeah. That's valid. Continue.
It's more of I think it was more about the Rasputin story more than the Almighty
just
stuff.
him himself.
Yeah, him and the other character.
The other character. No,
y'all dancing. This is great.
Y'all
being so respectful.
Come on,
y'all being so respectful. I love y'all.
You're the one who has a podcast on Friday, and you didn't take this time to get the gun.
What you mean I didn't take this time to get the gun?
Did you have the shotgun kills done? Or it takes like 5 minutes if you had the kills done before.
I told you they were on strike since public event foolishness. I'm not doing that until they resolve that, and then I get back. Listen, you got to stand up for something sometimes. That was not acceptable content. Don't get mad at me because I chose to say this. I am not doing it.
I'm just saying that part is done. So.
Here's the problem. During that part, I said, you know what? I'm going to take some time to knock out some backlog. And I got like 3 games finished. I got like Final Fantasy 7 finished. I'm all the way through Gears Tactics. I got Mortal Kombat 11. I got very productive. So now I'm back. I'll be in there this week.
But anyway, it's like, it is cool to give backstory. I'm just curious how this ties into the rest of the season. We have the Almighty coming. We had the moment when, Zavala's talking to Rasputin, kind of comes to like a peace accord basically between those two. It's like, okay, we're actually going to work together. That was how many weeks ago? 6 weeks ago that was maybe not that far. It's been a long time that's happened. And there's still this giant ship hurtling towards Earth, which granted the way it travels through space, it could appear technically in the horizon on the last day before it actually gets to be visible. Not going to happen that way. I'm still just like, I want the season to kind of finish. I'm at that point now. Yeah, it's like, I just like, hey, Almighty's coming. Pyramid ships are going to do something, which that math is either... I wanted to ask you guys, put a pin in the pyramid ships. I want to come back to that in a minute. But all this stuff's like culminating, and I'm just like dying to grab the next page of the book and pull it over just to see what the hell happens. Because right now, I'm just like, as soon as I got the shotgun on Tuesday or Thursday, I was just like... Back
now
to,
what?
Literally, my chat was either like back to Neo, I guess. Like it's kind of those points, and I was so it's been a very weird journey all season long, and then to culminate in a hut, and then like emotional high to like a cliff falling off into an oblivion hole is like it's been quite a roller coaster. So, and it's a game; it's not that big of a deal, but within the game, it's been a roller coaster. Sorry, that was a lot of talking.
No, you're good, man. You're good. I listen. It's just. We got to call it what it is. The season of the worthy is just unworthy. You know what I'm saying? It just, as a whole, as a content, you know what I'm saying? In comparison to other content, this has probably been the lowest I've seen. You know what I'm saying? This is below Curse of Osiris level. And look, we love them. We love them to death. It's just one of those times, you know what I'm saying, that the content didn't hit and a lot of the ideas didn't hit. And like I'm with you, E. I'm so ready to see what's the next connective tissue from this Almighty thing to what are we going to do next. And we know, like you said, the pins on the wall, Doritos are inbound. We got it. We know about that. But it's just like, how quickly do we do Doritos? Do they send an emissary? Is it, because we know September is going to be crazy. Luke told us that, right? Luke said, you are not ready for what's about to happen in September. But it's just my curiosity from a narrative beat. Man, what is going to happen? So that's why I need this thing to be over. So I'm going to log in.
And for those of us that have completed the quest, when it comes to next season.
For those who've been dedicated. Don't you shame me, damn it.
You've had time is all I'm saying.
Oh my God. Continue. I'm going to let that one slide. Continue.
No, but for Teddy, when it comes to next season, do you think it's related to basically the bait in this quest?
What do you mean? Well, I can't really ask that because I would elaborate. I'm not exactly sure what the question is.
For what said character? What caused said character's demise? The unnamed character. Do you think that is going to have any relation to? Okay,
no.
You don't think that's going to be next season?
I think this story is wholly self-contained, and the Rasputin part of it, maybe because it's meant to show us, without spoiling it. I'm like trying really hard not to.
I know, seriously.
What it is. Y'all doing a masterful job.
The Rasputin part of it is meant to show us a different side of Rasputin and understand Rasputin's history, and I think that will be relevant.
Okay.
But the actual other characters aspect of it is just there to satisfy.
Just explaining that character's journey.
Gotcha. Yeah, basically, and explain some previous mishaps in the lore. Or not mishaps, but I guess missed aspects of it.
So when it comes to season 11, season of the Redacted, I want to know what the hell is going to happen. Like, we are 2 weeks away. I know the trailer's probably going to drop on June 3rd, like the Wednesday before it drops and stuff. Same the way that they did last time. But I'm just over here dying because, again, it's like I'll log on for a Tuesday and be like, this Tuesday was literally like, well, we know the quest is bugged. There is no Iron Banner. Back to like it's been these last 3 weeks. It says like and more, and I'm like, okay, we got the quest, we did that. But again, I just want to know how this stuff wraps up because at some point they can't tell us about the next season until we finish up the Almighty. This Almighty might lead into something else, so I'm just like on the edge of my seat to know what's next. But that's all. There's nothing in game for me to do. I'm literally just waiting to see how the story ends.
So here's a question. Around this time last year, we got the Outbreak Prime quest in the tower. And then in August of 2018, we got Whispers a little bit later, but still around the same time. And do you think we have that at the end of the season, or are they just not gonna?
I think this was that.
You think so?
Yeah, I don't think there's. Again,
it's pretty lackluster.
It is in comparison. It is lackluster for sure. No argument that this is lackluster. They had more backing during both of those 2 times to be able to have teams divided off into making other quests. And this one, with the way it was delivered between public events and then this, and then just the general way the lore is explained and stuff like that, I think that's what they have time for right now. I mean, you have, senior artists like, Nine Hydras talking out there about like the room that they built in the end, and just kind of look of it and the cool, and it's like, it's sick, but it's like they built, I don't know if there's another one of those out there. I don't see
how many weeks we have left. What is our time frame?
2.5.
2.5, and as of right now, there's no specific roadmap calendar item.
Nope. There hasn't been one since Guardian Games was it. Guardian Games said and more. That was all. Yeah,
I agree. I don't think there's enough time for anything of that magnitude, like what you're saying, Ted, as far as like an outbreak or a whisper kind of thing. It would be a little too close to the end. But I will say shout out to Crystal in the chat. There's a possibility of some minor maybe lore beat, or then like again another connective tissue beat, which is like for example that when we finished and Osiris goes up to Rasputin, and we had that cutscene when you log. I think we may get like something similar to that on a reset for coming in, because they have to connect this thing. I mean, we do know obviously Almighty's coming. That probably might be it, right? The Almighty comes, whatever it's looming, kind of thing.
9 million satellites later, or strange math, not that many, but still.
Yeah, like shout out to
CB. Oh, okay, yeah.
There's a scene in the trailer for this season at the very beginning when we got the season where a warlock wearing Felwinter's helm and then a bunch of NPCs are standing by a core and looking up, and kind of like covering their hands or their faces. I mean, with their hands. Yes. And that hasn't happened. I mean, that could have just been them just recording like a thing in game, because it looked like it was an engine. It wasn't a cutscene. But yeah, I'm kind of with you. I hope there is some kind of like cutscene or connective thing, because it was a little lackluster to see Osiris go talk to Rasputin, and then Osiris has not been part of this season. He just kind of vanished. He's like, ooh.
And then for Teddy, like some people in chat were saying, do you think Rasputin and Osiris's discussion was about what we just learned? Do you think that's what he said? He is like, do you think that's linked?
Yeah, I could see that.
Okay. I was somebody said that, and I don't know, but at least in my head I was like, I could see that as to why he was the way he was.
Right.
Because again, it depends on the debate of where you stand after you get done seeing this lore. So
right.
Yeah, I think that would make sense. Again, I'm trying really hard not to spoil this, but like,
you being excellent. Oh my
so
God.
vague. Sorry for everybody watching this later on. You guys can give Cognito hell next week when we get to talk about it.
The story implication is meant to show us a side of Rasputin.
Yes.
And I think Osiris has found out the ugly part of that story, and that's why he says that.
Gotcha.
But from us as the outside perspective viewing it, it's meant to show us a deeper side and like a better side. That's like probably as vague as I can make it without actually saying what's going on.
Actually, you guys give me so much content. I'm so hyped to get back on.
So just as like set the expectation, the mission is not very long.
Yeah,
it's like it's like 5-ish minutes. But it's got some good dialogue. So
it kind of basically what you guys are describing kind of reminds me, and correct me if I'm wrong, of Zavala's conversation with Rasputin, and as to motivations and stuff. Obviously, it's more than that, but I'm just saying like context on why maybe he does the things he does. Obviously, we know about Ted character that most people know already, but you know what I'm saying. I'm very curious about that. So I mean, we'll see. I mean, I think
you now have to text me when you get this gun.
Oh,
and granted, it could be 30 minutes after the podcast ends. Either way, you have to text me when you're done. So.
Definitely get done. And last point, because we didn't talk about this, I got to ask both of you. The gun, Felwinter's Life. How are you guys feeling about it? You guys put it in the wild?
It will be popular. That's all I'm probably going to say.
Okay. How you feeling, Teddy?
So I have a god roll of Mindbenders that I'm very attached to that I grinded a lot for.
Yes.
And I've been using that a lot. And they're not the same roll, but they're similar. Because Mindbenders can't get opening shot unless it's the curated roll.
Yes.
So I kind of messed with both of them a little bit. I didn't. I don't play a lot of PvP, so I don't think I'm the right person to ask for this. But I think Felwinter is slightly more consistent. And it can have the potential for like very deep one-hit kills, but it still suffers from the shotgun RNG. However, the one advantage that it does have is that it's a later seasoned gun, which means when Mindbenders gets retired, this gun will ultimately replace it.
This will be the new, that's how I'm looking at it.
And this is a quest item, though they did say that this quest does go away at the end of the season. So if you don't get it in the next 2 weeks,
I read it.
You're not able to get it. That being said, from preliminary videos that I've watched and Reddit posts, it seems like a God World Astral Horizon is actually better.
Okay.
I don't have one of those, unfortunately, so I can't test it myself, but I also kind of don't care, if I'm going to be perfectly honest. I just don't play enough PvP. What do you think, Ebontis? Have you used it? Have you liked it? And PvP, it's just
intrigued by that.
Again, it's like I'm always like I'm okay at PvP, and I even tried it out on the stream just to joke. As I was like, I got it. All right, let's go play PvP. I was like, I am so out of practice with shotguns, it's not funny. But just listening to different people talk about it, by the time it came out, I think, especially Fallout's video, he did some really deep testing on it and stuff like that.
What's the
there
consensus?
is some
the scientists on it. What do you say?
I mean, the range for him on his Mindbenders, consistency for him is like 7.5 meters, not quite, and this one can consistently kill at 8. So it can outrange it, and you can just pick opening shot. And I think the difference is, as you said, this is Season of the Worthy. It's going to be available for another year, so 9 more months. Everybody who's playing right now can get this thing at this point. So those who are currently playing right now are going to potentially basically be guaranteed to have a very, very good shotgun and be able to avoid said grind, which we'll get into more of a discussion later. They don't have to go spend 3 weeks, 3 months in, the Mindbenders grind and just be like, hey, I've gone through this strike 10 times a day. I haven't even got one to drop yet. Versus go through the quest. Everybody does it. I have a direct path. I get my 1,000 kills, and I get a gun that is very, very, very viable and next to comparable, if not equal to, some of the top guns that you can get. There may be smidgen, and if the trials can outmatch it barely, that actually probably is where it should be if you can get the right roll. But the time to get one versus the other, no, this is going to be just popular as can be.
Just popular. Okay. Well, no, I'm glad you guys broke it down that way. I'm very curious. I was one of the very unlucky ones. I tried to grind. I never got a Mindbenders to drop. Also, me being a PvP guy, I'm very excited because, I want to use, obviously 600s are good right now, so I want to use Cyril's Regime and something in the energy so I can give up my Lord of Wolves. I hate having to use that all the time. You know what I'm saying? So, I'm excited. And then the Vorpal aspect has me intrigued because as a Trials player, I'm thinking, maybe being that you have the selectable perks, during later rounds when everyone's got their super, switching to Vorpal it's kind of easy, you know what I'm saying, at that point during the later rounds. So I'm curious, man. I'm excited for it. It's solar, and I like the aesthetic of it. So I will be getting that done so he can get off my back on the podcast.
So quick follow-up question to that. So Bungie has this track record of when they give us a very powerful gun that they've curated, that they end up nerfing that archetype like very closely after the fact.
We're going to speak about that because it was alluded to in the TWAB.
Yeah, and so giving everyone a God-rolled shotgun to me is like, we're going to nerf shotguns pretty soon. Enjoy while we have it.
Yep. You're so... It's literally Bungie's way. I've always said it like, okay, we recognize an issue. Have your fun. Yep.
Everybody got hard light from Xur before.
You know the vibes.
Oh, yeah.
I'm telling you, are so on to something. Like I completely agree. Yeah, for them to give you that, it's something's coming. So we'll get ready.
Chat's even saying this. Like when I played I played 2 matches, and they said... And granted, it was right when the gun came out, so I'm sure it's skewed. But they said like 9 out of 12 people are using this thing.
Oh my lord! Trials
so it's actually, while we're doing this, I can go look up Trials report because it is actually live.
Let me report. Shout out to Outside. He says Soros and Felwinter is going to be the new meta. He bets. Oh man, yeah. Because if I'm thinking it, the world's thinking about it.
Felwinter's is 275,000 kills. Revoker is number 2 at 182,000 kills. It's like top of the whole thing.
Oh my god. That's crazy.
It's
what map is
Dead
it, though?
Cliffs. I don't even know how to describe that one. It's like
it's one that has really bad spawns.
Yeah, I can believe that.
At A. It's the one that A's inside
like
in
the
back corner.
Heavy is on that like weird little middle like 2 hallway area. Now Heavy is like kind of on this side. You've got...
Just give me the aesthetic, that it'll help you remember.
It's on Earth in the EDZ, and it's got like
Greystone
a
building.
Warehouse.
Yep, and then like the yellowish warehouse, and C's in the yellowish warehouse. Yes. You got the under, and you can split both ways. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you'll have some close range. Definitely people.
Oh, that's close range business right there. Yeah. Oh, it's gonna be spooky in there.
Mindbenders is at 51K. Felwinter's is at 275.
It's only been out for how long though?
It came out Thursday, but yeah, I mean Trials is today, so yeah.
Jesus. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
What else we got?
So, besides the fact that we got the quest, we also got a TWAB. Got a couple different things of discussion, and I will honestly say, and I've actually be curious on chat, when you guys read this just first time through, now I was like kind of watching a TV show in the background, came up, I was like, oh, this actually came out a little earlier than usually, like 45 minutes earlier. Usually it's later, and I was reading through it, and the first time I read through it, I'm like, what did I just read? It wasn't the clearest thing in the world when it comes to the decryption, the engrams, and like that whole world loot pool thing. When they're like, "Hey, you can't wait to talk about the world loot pool," and I'm like, "Wait, which things come where?" And if I found a Reddit post which clarified one of my questions, which helped.
Right.
But yeah, so obviously the lie was the big issue this week. But then they were going to talk about the future. They're going to talk about more rewards going into next season, and decrypting the future is. And this is going to tie into sunsetting, so this is just going to be one big-ass discussion. Sorry in advance.
No, go for it, bro.
So today they said we're going to talk about some changes that are coming to Season 11 to the way the World Loot Pool works. Because the World Loot Pool serves as a baseline of legendary gear that can be earned across different activities, we want to update and refresh it seasonally with meta-relevant weapons, some of which were previously exclusive to specific activities like Gambit or Crucible. This shared loot pool can be unwieldy. If you're looking for a specific role of a specific weapon, a pool too large can make it statistically challenging to find, much less with the role you want. I think we can all agree that's 100% true, because people are like, hey, I want to go for, what is that little sidearm?
Last Hope.
Last Hope, Feeding Frenzy.
Ice Frenzy.
Yeah.
Multi-kill clip. I still don't have that role.
Yeah, no, I got Feeding Frenzy, but not that role.
I watched Scarrow go through, what was the, like, 500,000 Fractaline trying to get one of those, and he ended up getting one there.
Wow.
Yep. Because he got it from the Obelisk turn-in, because those were world loot pools. He got it through that.
I did close to 500,000 Fractaline and never got the God roll. I only got close once.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm even remotely near it, so.
I was very disappointed.
Yeah. So yeah, obviously, like, and that's kind of the thing about like the God roll stats. Some of in this game. Hey, I want a good roll piece of armor. I want a good roll stat piece of armor with the right affinity, which at least we can switch now, and then a proper stat distribution. So if you're trying to go for exotic, I need the exotic. I need a high stat roll, and then distribute it away that's not complete trash, and recovery is 2. I've had those. Can't stand them. So, starting in Season 11, it will be curated both for relevance and overall size. Now, the size I still have to question because there's literally 30 on this list, so... to strike a balance between number of rewards and the chance to get a sought-after drop. Every season gear from previous seasons will be added, and any gear that would no longer have a max power level greater than or equal to... should just say greater than, because it's not going to be the same. The current season cap will be cycled out to ensure drops are power relevant in Season 11. So in theory, the only, just for an example, Season 12, Year 4, the only things that are going to be in that world loot pool when we get to Year 4 are going to be Season of Dawn and onward. So nothing from Shadowkeep, nothing in Older will be in there. That's kind of their way to curate that and make sure if it does drop in there, you at least can use it at that time. Maybe not in 2 months or whenever you get done with that season, but at least in that season it will be power valid, per se. Now, I made a list, joys of being bored, not really, just prepping for this, and the list of things that we have going into next season that are going to be in the world loot pool. I also put the list in my Discord, and somebody was like, there's a whole bunch of weapons I don't care about. Teddy's over there like, interesting. All right.
I mean, he's not wrong.
So here's the list, and I'm going to go through and list you guys by number as well, just so you guys get a point of reference. Yeah, Prescott, that was you. Oh, no, I got you. So auto rifles, we have 2. Uriel's Gift and Gnawing Hunger. Fusion rifles, we have 3. Main Ingredient, Elatha 4, FR4, and Timeline's Vertex. Hand cannons. We never have enough hand cannons, and we've got 4. Old-fashioned, Dire Promise, True Prophecy, and Nature of the Beast, which is not the raid hand cannon, because God knows I've been confused over that multiple times. That's not Nation of the Beast.
Nation of the Beast. I always get that confused, too. It's funny you said that.
So this is like the Year 1 or very old-school Nature of the Beast. So 4 hand cannons there. Rocket launchers, 2, Mass Epoch and Bad Omens. Shotguns, Hawthorns, Toil and Trouble, and Wishbringer. Sidearms, Last Hope, Enigma's Draw, Lonesome from Gambit, by the way. That's where we'll get into some of this, and Last Dance. Grenade launchers, we've got Outrageous Fortune and Interference. So Outrageous Fortune is actually coming into next season as a current drop, it sounds like. Pulse Rifle, GN7, Last Perdition. Sniper Rifle, now, that one's weird.
What's that?
Last Perdition specifically is one we could have just got done grinding for with the Fractaline.
Yes.
So if I got a good one there, is this going to be a Season 11 drop versus a Season of the Drifter drop coming into some of the Sen setting stuff? We'll get to that.
Good point.
Sniper Rifle, Distant Tumulus, and Long Shadow. Sword, Honor's Edge, and Steel Sibyl. Bow, Arsenic Bite, 1. Breach Grenade Launcher, Truth Teller. That's an old Year 1 breach load. Since, by the way, like none of those are coming forward. The Scout Rifles, Night Watch. Just 1. 1 Scout Rifle. Also
scouts.
from Gambit Prime.
Yes.
So, if you still need a weapon or weapon roll from the current Vanguard, Crucible, or Gambit playlist that isn't on that list, go grab it now.
Yeah.
I was like, and this is the quote that got linked to me in my Discord. So Cosmo replied, because me and amongst everybody, I even tagged him in a question, because I was like, I wanted to know what is going to happen with this world loot pool with regards to vendors. Armor will come from specific activities like Crucible and Gambit and turning in tokens at the vendors. But you will get weapons from the world loot pool listed in the TWAB from doing these activities or turning in the tokens in vendors. For example, you might always get Crucible armor from turning in tokens to Shax, but you might get the Gambit sidearm from turning in Crucible tokens to Shax.
So we
the
no
weapon
longer...
loot, yeah.
Right. So my question is, that being that we've now got this world loot pool with former items that were specific to specific pools, activity pools.
Yep.
My question then, so does Gambit and, like, will they not have a new updated specific pool to themselves?
It doesn't sound like it.
Which seems like it's all grouped together. I don't know how I feel about that. Continue.
So, that's all of this bullet points. So this is discussion topic 1. Go.
Yeah.
So the way that I understood it, and I guess it kind of helped that you just explained it again, was that going forward, at least for next season, or whatever season they listed this as, this will be the legendary loot pool if I turn in tokens at the Gambit, or when I level up Gambit, or if I turn them in at Shax, or if I turn them in at Vanguard, presumably. and then also any legendary drop. But then there's also this like drop chance thing that they talked about in the previous TWAB. I forgot what they called it.
Oh yeah, the kind of curation of that. Yeah.
Yeah,
that
which basically it's like
that might be the. Is that the seasonal one though?
It might be. I'm forgetting. I've been behind on a lot of news and that's kind of catching up. But they talked about basically it's like how it worked in Destiny 1, except it's like a chance thing now rather than me just selecting armor or weapon.
Right.
It sounded really good in theory, but to me, what this sounds like is that just the legendary loot pool in general will just contain these weapons going forward for season 11. Yes. Which is kind of a weird design choice to me, but I think it plays into their desire to really control the sandbox. Because a lot of these weapons are not good.
Yeah.
Do you have an opinion, sir? Because I know you do.
Yeah. I'm trying to be open-minded here. You know, I don't like what I'm hearing, right? Again, it's information I feel.
What I'm hearing here.
Again, let me throw a caveat. There is still information that I feel next season still has to be presented that I might not be aware of. So I just want to be clear that what's the next season number? Season 10?
11. We're in 10.
All right,
11's
we're in 10.
next.
So 11's next. So when season 11 starts, is Bungie telling me that when I play Gambit, right? Because let's just say Gambit, for example. All I see now is knowing hunger in there, right? So they say grab, whatever's in the loot pool now from these vendors because, this is your lag. Go grab it now if it's not on this list. So anything non-knowing hunger and whatever the other thing that's in this loot pool from Gambit.
Nightwatch
is
the other one.
Nightwatch, right? Is going away. So like, let's use Trust, for example. Trust is on that part, right? So is Trust gone?
That's what it sounds like.
Trust, spare rations.
Spare rations.
Well, spares
Reckoning.
can come from Reckoning technically.
From Reckoning
it
can
drop from Gambit. Well,
that's the big, and that's like the big question.
Does Reckoning go away in the fall? Like, does that disappear?
Is there going to be Gambit perfected? Because they said Gambit and Gambit Prime would last for 1 year.
Right.
Gambit's whole coming to Jesus meeting is supposed to happen in the fall.
Exactly. So to me, again, if you look at it face value, it seems weird as hell. I don't understand why this decision choice to, consolidate the pools and then tell you anything that you didn't get from the pools that still currently exist that are going to go away, you better grab, right? So to me, it almost feels like maybe the modes, I'm guessing now, it almost feels like what we talked about, which is like maybe cataclysmic event of said activities. I don't know, man. This is very strange. It's a weird design choice.
Yeah, I've been kind of just browsing Reddit a little bit, and the balance changes are a whole different discussion. We'll get to those in a bit.
Right.
But just the idea that specifically it's like, it almost feels like they're trying to give you like freedom to grind where you want to, but by doing that, they almost make the numbers of the grind harder to get what you want. And also, as other people have said, you take away the identity of certain activities. If I'm playing Crucible, and that's one of the big ones, is like if I'm playing Crucible, I'm going for Crucible weapons. If I want Gambit, what is anyone's incentive now to go play Gambit?
Yeah.
Because not that many people like that activity, and now if I can go get the viable weapons from said activity, I can go get my gnawing hunger, because auto rifles still apparently are decent. Maybe, still, we'll see. Yeah. But if I can get that, I could get it in Gambit, but I could get it in Crucible, I could get it in Vanguard, but I can also get it with all these other things. It's almost like if you're in Gambit, I had the armor in there, but I also had 7 weapons to pick between. Right. Now if I'm in there, I have the armor and I have 30 weapons to pick between. So them trying to like say, hey, the grind's easier to go after something you want, unless I can narrow down on like world loot pool, I want auto rifles that I can pick between 4.
Right.
I really have to see this thing in action because, as you're saying, it's like, and it does, but the other piece is it takes the identity away from activities, which is just a weird thing.
And it also seems kind of, fair to say, sneaky, because we were told, we were just given this whole thing about sunsetting, right? That was the theme, sunsetting. And then we're just sneakily sunsetting weapons from an activity that we were told we were going to get more time, come September, whatever it is, to rock out before the infusion stops. So it's just weird messaging. It's a lot of weird messaging going on, man. This sounds very... I'm just trying to understand the thought process because my main beefs are, activities lose identity. Because one of the cool things about playing Gambit was like, I can grind for these specific, guns that I'm looking for, Bad Omen, whatever, right? Each activity had guns tied to it. Now we're throwing everything in this mosh posh soup of a small cup of microwavable chunky soup. And now you're telling me this is it. Get it while, it's just strange, man. I don't understand it. I'm really hoping that we're missing context and that there is something that is going to either be added next season to each individual activity in addition, to what this loot pool beholds. Because as of right now, all that you're telling me is, hey, we're shrinking the, loot. That's what, when you just told me we're not sunsetting stuff until later. So again, which one is it? What's going on here?
So two follow-up points to that.
Sure.
The first is I find this weird that they would basically, these are all old guns, and so right now, if you were to go earn these guns, some of these are Forsaken guns, which means if you go get them, they will have the Forsaken symbol on them, and the Forsaken guns get sunset in season 12. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yep.
But when they reintroduce guns into the world loot pool, like they did last season for like Last Hope and Hawthorne's shotgun and a couple other ones, they actually got the season 9 symbol added to them, which makes them viable beyond,
right?
In the future. Now, at the time, we didn't know that, but that's how it works now. So presumably, these weapons down this new pool will have the symbol for what is next season, which makes them viable longer. So what's really, really weird to me is why would you go tell me to grind for these guns when they're all going to get sunset after the fact? It's such a weird thing. And then my second point to this is, Slayer Edge said it really good and really well in one of his recent videos. He's like, Bungie's like a control freak, but they don't want you to know that they're a control freak. Like especially because they tell you like, oh, play the game you want to play. This is an open game where you like do whatever you want. But then they attempt. This is like a much broader point, but I'm simplifying it. But like, they're basically like really trying to control every aspect of the game, and I don't fault them necessarily for a lot of the decisions they make. I understand, even though I don't agree with a lot of the things they do, I do understand why they do a lot of the things that they do. But a lot of the decisions in the last few TWABs that they've been talking about, I guess with the exception of the Eververse one, which I think was just unanimously like good. Finally. It's just like when I like read between the lines and put my cynical hat on, and kind of remove like the emotional aspect of how I'm feeling about it. It's kind of like, this to me just says that you really want to control the way I play, and that's super frustrating because I already feel like I'm being controlled and told how to play, especially as like an end game player too, where it's like I still can't play with some of my friends because of SBMM, for example. It's like one thing, right? But anyway, I'm not gonna get into it. That's like a huge,
it's all good,
like philosophical problem that I don't know. But it's such a weird. I don't know. I don't really know what to think of this. I guess much like sunsetting, which we'll get to in a sec, I kind of have to see it to understand it. But there's definitely a communication problem. In regards to this specifically. Where it's like, why isn't this? I feel like this should be explained very well, but it's not.
In detail, and it's not. It's very. And again, I hate to use the word sneaky, but it that's how I feel. I feel like, listen, they have been a masterful job of being transparent these last 3 to 4 weeks, right? I'm not gonna discredit them in that way.
Out of necessity, though.
Yes. There you go. It's out of necessity because we're upset. And when we're upset and we stop playing and we push back, daddy lessens the rules. Right?
They're also very, sorry to cut you off, they're very...
No, please go.
They're very good at this, and they've done this a lot in the past, and people don't catch on to this, where they'll intentionally announce what they would consider bad news, and then immediately follow it up with something that's very hype. What's going to happen in 2 weeks? A new season, and then...
That's what I was just about to say.
E3 was supposed to happen, and E3 is where they traditionally announced the fall expansion. So they did this last year too, right before Shadowkeep during Guardian Con, when they nerfed all our things, then we all forgot about it because Shadowkeep came out. I didn't forget. I remember Black Spindle.
We don't forget, brother. We don't forget. That's a good one.
Skull of Daram Kara still sucks.
Man.
But they do this a lot, and they've done, and it wasn't just in Destiny 2. They did this in Destiny 1 a lot too, where they'll front load really bad news, and then shortly after, kind of just quietly announce the thing, and then we don't forget about the bad stuff, right?
Great point.
And from a PR standpoint, that's like genius, right? Like, yeah, and it creates these cycles and these waves, and for them it's predictable, and so they probably have some metrics.
Yeah, this one's like a good news sandwich because you had the Eververse, then this trash, and then we're gonna get trailers and reveals and hype. So it's like they're just stuck in this. This one's in the middle of the burger filling. It's just stuck in the middle. So
it's just I don't know. I give the community team a lot of credit, but I also give them a lot of flack too because they have one of the hardest jobs.
Oh, absolutely.
But at the same time, I have to fault them a little bit because games like, or companies like 343 or DICE from Battlefront, or even there's a couple other ones, their community updates, if you go read them, are amazing. Like the 343 ones for Master Chief Collection, it's like a 20-page essay, and now granted, I don't expect everyone to read that, but they'll break down like every single problem they're working on in excruciating detail, why it's like that, why we needed to fix it, or what we're doing about it. And then Bungie's over here, sorry, but they're like, we're changing the world loop pool, and we're not going to really explain it. It's just kind of going to be there. You're going to figure it out. It's fine. Or the sunsetting thing, too. It's like, we're going to sunset this stuff, and we kind of just feel like it because other MMOs have done it, but we're not really sure why we're doing it. I mean, they probably know why they're doing it, but, I'm being facetious, but, like, I'm trying to make a bigger point that, like, other companies seem to have this, like DICE with Battlefront that's like such a success story to me because every update was just like super impactful, like here's what we're working on, here's what we're doing, and Bungie sometimes does that, like the last few weeks, they've given us a little more deep dive into it, but I feel like if they just did that every week or like almost every week, I'd be so much more happier about Destiny. Even if Destiny was like at its worst, at least if they came out and were like, here are the problems, let's talk about it, but they don't, and that kind of sucks. And I don't think that at this point I've just given up on expecting them to change.
I was gonna jump in. This is I think you definitely got it, Teddy, from the standpoint of, again, if you look at it face value, without context of what's coming, it don't sound good. It sounds sneaky. It's sneaky and it feels deceptive. I do agree with you. We are on the cusp of next season content, next season marketing push, next season trailer. Once we get Icon, we forget about all the mess, the effery. I'm not going to curse, but you know what I'm saying, that has happened prior, right? Because we're and then there's usually some type of introduction of a new system or new, and I think that's what it's this cycle. We're in this cyclical pattern with them, that this is how it goes. And, the key with them now is that people are onto it.
It's been 6 years.
It's like after a while we start to understand the cadences of how these things work, and they're gonna have a tougher battle because look, I think initially, would you say that for the most part, I know me and you had our little thing about exotics, but for the most part, me and you were on the same page. Sunsetting had to happen, power creep, the whole bit, right? Yeah. I think the consensus was everybody pretty much agreed with that for the most part. But then again, when you see things like this and you hear about this loophole and all this other stuff, you know what I'm saying? That's going to bring stuff into question. And now people are worried. And then the last point I'll make before I give it to you, E, is that, I'm now, what I'm struggling with, y'all? I am now struggling with reissue.
Oh, that's a huge issue for me.
Why even? You just told us why this need to happen, but then you're going to remix old stuff and it just, I hate to use this word because I'm pro development.
You're going to say lazy is the word you're going to use.
Yeah, bro, it just feels late. And like, listen, I defend this game more than anybody, but it's just like, when people come up to me and say that are Destiny haters, dude, they just giving you this content all over again. Dude, they just repackaged. This is Curse of Osiris 2.0. Dude, this is Warmind 2.0. Like, they're literally giving you the same. We're getting Felwinter here. Like, it's hard to fight against those guys that hate the game because you know, what are gonna, like someone said, I don't know where I read it. So technically, we can get Recluse 2.0 down the road. You know what I'm saying? Like, so what was the point? And they've got to, man. I just don't understand the thought process behind reissuing when you just said, yo, sunsetting has to happen for the sanctity of the game. You know what I'm saying? Like, mixed messaging. But I'll give it to you because you know I'm about to go in. You know I'm about to go in.
No, you're good. This is just going to build even more into sunsetting. And so I'm of the mindset that, and this is, again, where I may be leaning on the other side of the fence from you guys, but I'm at the point where sunsetting, I feel like, does need to happen. We've kind of come to an accord on legendaries to a point, but even for me, some of the exotics are either buff them or get rid of them, because some of them, like, well, no, like, literally, Cerberus came up from in Xur today.
Oh, yeah, no, facts.
And I'm like, when the hell's the last time I even thought about that gun?
Yeah, facts.
Either, like, buff it or get rid of it, make a different auto rifle or something, because some of those things just either need love or use. I mean, if there's a point where I could at least, hey, I could use Cerberus, I could put like that type of damage into a overload guy. I can just like kind of spray bullets at this thing that's coming at me, and I have a pretty good chance to hit it. No, I still can't use the mod slot. I'm going to say it every podcast. I cannot use mod slots in exotics still, which bugs the hell out of me, because you have things. What if they go to more long range stuff next season? You're going to have pulse rifles, Vigilance Wing, Graviton Lance that I still can't go put those barrier breakers in, and would be nice to have a little variety since the exotics go for it. Anyway.
We know.
No, I know. So, for me, the biggest thing is I don't want to keep using... What is the one I'm thinking of?
Your favorite?
No. Well, that one too. But that's a prime example. Like, I don't want to use I don't want to see people using Midnight Coup in year 5. I shouldn't be like, go figure in year like 4. Yeah, I had 45,000 kills with my go figure. Yes, I found a replacement for it, but yes, I know eventually it's not going to be viable for in-game stuff. That's fine. Like, at some point things need to like evolve and move forward. But also we're at the point, and some of these perks, what we'll talk about in a second, we've had damage and reload speed be the main things as the drivers, because you want less downtime for your weapon. However you get to that one, they've introduced like reload speed 4 different ways, and now they're literally going to be nerfing all of them. And then we have damage perks: kill clip, rampage, multi-kill clip, swashbuckler. I mean, how many different ways are you going to add damage to weapons? But again, they're still like worried about those always being too strong.
Right.
So my big issue now, as you're saying, in reissuing, but also is my fear of what are they going to introduce in the fall? And I'm just going to lead it into this one, and then we can kind of throw sunsetting and all this as well.
Yes, sir. So
they talk about lock and reload, and they basically mention reload perk updates. We observed players lean towards perks that increase their damage. Many bleeping curse words can be thrown in there, or reduce weapon downtime. And again, what is everybody trying to go for, especially if you're going for aspirational content? Efficiency. What is the efficiency? Absolutely. I want more damage and I want less downtime. And again, you want to increase that DPS number, especially if you come from something like World. That DPS number is your sole goal. I want to hit the highest number of numbers on that enemy that I can in the shortest amount of time. Period. Okay. Cool. That's what everyone wants to go for. Well, we already took the damage ones down a peg because those were too strong and everybody wanted them. Well, now we're going to do it for, efficiency as well. The weapon downtime is going to be greater. The damage perks were adjusted quite a while back, but the reload perks still don't feel like choices. This tuning pass aims to keep them feeling powerful-ish without being so dominant that no other choices seem viable. First, some information, just so you guys understand, they say reload speed. The reload stat is 0 to 100, and then it maps onto that weapon's, basically the animation speed of that weapon. It's going to be base speed or increase up to whatever 100 is. Now, depending on whatever perk it is, you may get a perk like Outlaw, which used to give plus 100. Well, it can't go over 100, so they would also add a scaler to the animation. So instead of it taking 100% of the time and then kind of multiply it over, they'd take another like 20% off of it just to make Outlaw run even faster, to make sure you always got some effect from it.
Right.
Got it. All of these perks are going to be a little bit less effective to bring them down in line with some other perks. Most of the other perks. So you've got Outlaw. The reload stat is going from plus 100, which would basically max it out, to plus 50. Now, if you have something that sits at 50 reload speed, this technically in the reload stat would function the same. because the plus 50, plus 100, it still caps at 100. The reload duration scale is that kind of multiplier to the animation. They are taking that from 0.8, so 20%, to 0.9, so a 10% reduction. So that's no matter what, 10% slower. Plus, you're only going to get plus 50, so it's going to be a little bit slower. So that's Outlaw. Right. Slowed it down a little bit. Feeding Frenzy, this was strictly better than Outlaw. So we're changing the functionality based on the number of rapid kills. So with 2 kills, it's equal to Outlaw, the updated version. With 3 kills, it's faster. 4 kills, it's the fastest reload in the game, except Alloy Mag. And then they said the max possible duration scale was 0.83 to 0.8. So it can be fast if you get 4 kills. And the max possible reload stat is still at plus 100, but they don't break down everything. They don't go plus 2 kills is this and this. Plus 3 kills is this and this. They still leave the vagary in there, which we just got done talking about. They're like, here's some information, but not quite all of it. So here's some numbers, but not all of it. Rapid hit. Everybody's spare rations that they wanted. They wanted rapid hit rangefinder. I have one of those by sheer luck, by the way. I didn't grind for it.
Salute.
Gave a huge amount of reload and stability for very little work. It front-loaded the first precision hit. We've updated it so it still feels good, but isn't quite as powerful. Again, that's almost like a contradictory statement. It still feels good, but it's not as strong. Does it still feel good?
Brace for impact.
Adjusted stacking bonuses to give less benefit for the first hit and more for subsequent hits. Max possible reload stat, from 100, it's down to 60. So it caps at that. And again, remember, this was front-loaded. So you would start at 100 versus the other, or wherever it hit first. Max possible reload duration scale was like 0.8. Now it's 0.925. So it's more than half as slow. And the max possible stability stat was plus 50, which is huge for stability. That's down to 25. So it's definitely going to feel weaker. Drop mag, situationally, they basically made it match Outlaw. Field prep is unchanged, but they just gave you a point of reference on it, that its reload stat is plus 50, and the duration scale is 0.8, so that's the same. And then Alloy Mag, it's unchanged, but for reference, Alloy Mag, the reload animation, is literally a third faster, which is a big difference. So that one's pretty damn quick. There's some other perks in here they mentioned. They said they're fixing an issue where perks grant partial weapon ammo did not respect shot count, so they're talking about like pulse rifles, fusion rifles, which the only thing I could imagine is like Bastion. I don't know why those pulses or fusions are listed in there. And burst sidearms, where it fires multiples and it's just multiplying weird.
Yeah.
So these said perks are going to be more common on the weapon archetypes. Slide shot, slide ways, ambitious assassin, subsistence, which I don't care about most of those. Overflow, lead from gold is okay. Clown cartridge has potential. So again, if I can't have efficiency, at least my clip might be bigger. Overflow and clown cartridge are the only two I see as positive. They're doing some perk tuning. They are taking dynamic sway reduction.
But before you jump into that, just because I don't want to.
You want to talk about the reloads?
Yeah, I don't want to let them off on that one.
Okay, I was gonna do all of them, but yeah, we can do this one.
Yeah, I just was talking that one only because I know I'm gonna forget. But it's just, again, you read the initial paragraph about reload perk updates, right? Bungie says the damage perks were adjusted, damage perks specifically, but reload perks still don't feel like choices. These are these words. So when I read that sentence, you are now setting me up for buffs. You are now setting me up mentally that good things are about to happen for reload perks. And then you consequently, each sentence is nerf, or it's still gonna be strong, just not strong.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It just, again, messaging, verbiage, right? These are conflicting messages. You literally go through Feeding Frenzy, Outlaw, and all rapid hit, and proceed to tell me how they are now going to be worse in some way, even if it's just minutely, statistically, they are going to be worse. So I don't understand why even say that these don't feel like choices, and now we're going to do something about it, and then you do this. So I'm confused. Now, the next segment, I know we're going to talk about possibly buffs, but it just bothered me. I shout out to Asacroft. I think he said the same thing. We were just like, I don't understand the thought process there. Please help me. You know what I'm saying? I don't. Teddy, what do you think, man? Just about the reload stuff. Am I bugging out?
I mean, look, I've said this a lot. I've said this to you guys. The smartest and best players will always figure out the most efficient way to do something.
Facts.
And reload perks and damage perks that got nerfed, I believe, with the Shadowkeep update, have always, not always, they've generally been the go-to perks, A, because they do provide that optimal loadout, and B, those perks are also very easy to see in moment-to-moment gameplay versus something like Zen Moment, for example, or
more satisfaction from it.
Yeah, or whatever, right? Like these perks are, you can see the effect of the perk happening when you're playing. And a part of that is with like the vagueness that Bungie unfortunately has a lot of their perks. So like, for example, Drewski did a video on moving target and I think dynamic sway reduction, which was like one of the best explanations of how those perks function. And those perks have been in the game since D1. They were just changed in D2 slightly, but they existed. But we never fully understood how they worked until somebody sat down. And I don't know if he was the first one, but he was definitely the one that explained it the best from what I could find. And that's, I mean, this is a bigger point where it's just like they have it in here. Like they don't explain the different tiers of feeding frenzy. Like why wouldn't you just? That's like 4 extra lines. Just explain the different. Yeah, like why does the community have to constantly figure, like they just finally broke down aim assist like 2 months ago in like super extreme detail. And that blows my mind because this game has been around for 6 years, and as far as we know, aim assist mostly worked the same in D1 as it did in D2. So like it just like really irks me when they like don't want to give us this information. I don't understand why they're so afraid that players will get upset. Now going back to the reload stuff, this is really unfortunate, and it's kind of a bummer. But I understand why they have to do it. But again, it's also just like, why would you tell me that you're gonna buff something, but then you like don't buff the thing?
It's listen, and shout out to Aries and Prescott. We always go at it in the chat. I love those two. And again, we get it, right? Especially we know as the TWAB is gonna go on, they're gonna introduce new perks, and we're gonna talk about some other perks and stuff like that. But again, you can't tell people that you're going to, that these things are not options and we're going to do something about it. And then you continue to go ban hammer and nerf hammer. Again, you gotta be more transparent, and you gotta message a little correctly, because this way you won't get any pushback, any lashbacks. I'm just trying to help them out, like, because it doesn't feel good. But continue. I'm sorry. Continue.
No, I mean that's basically like it's. I understand why, but it's also like it. This is like super cynical to think about it this way, but unfortunately I have to think about it like this with Destiny. I feel like they very intentionally spaced out all the nerfs in the last year. Like they had this all planned out from like a year ago, and they've just like very carefully, strategically spaced it out month by month.
Praise for impact.
So that way people don't get like super, super upset. Yeah. Because basically since they did the Reckoning nerf, but right before Guardian Con, I feel like it's just been like nerf after nerf after nerf to our overall ability in the sandbox. Like, yes, they buffed specific things and like auto rifles or things like that, but in general, where we were at pre-July of last year versus now, like we as Guardians suck. Like we, I don't know. We're just. I mean, on the one hand, that's an extreme example because we were very powerful at that point. Yes. But at the same time, like, we just keep going down and down and down a peg, and then this will lead into sunsetting. But like now you're gonna ask me to regrind everything, including my armor, and so it's like I'm basically resetting, but it just goes back to that fact of like they want to control every aspect of the game, but just let me play the game the way I want to play the game. Like it shouldn't matter. And I don't know, like the some of the buffs were a little bit interesting, and I'm still not gonna put hipfire grip on. We haven't gotten to that yet, but like
Forget it was either Aztecross or Fallout that was just like, stop trying to make hipfire grip happen.
Yeah.
Somebody, one of the two said that, and I can't remember, and I'm thinking the same thing. And I love how one of the bullet points is it has no effect on sniper rifles. Like, it shouldn't be on there in the first place.
In the first place.
That's what I was going to say. It can roll on a sniper rifle. And same thing with shotguns. Shotguns can roll with Outlaw that aren't slug shotguns. And it's like, why does this have Outlaw on it? Like, it doesn't make any sense. So stuff like that. I'm not going to put sneak bow on. Sorry, Bungie.
No, I'm not.
You're not excited about that?
Yeah.
You're not. Yo, they thought about you, man.
I'm sorry if you're a bow fan, but guess what? There's like 2 bows coming in after season 12 unless they introduce new bows, so you're kind of screwed either way. So,
there's like no bows right now, period. So all of us are kind of screwed. But even for me, is like when it comes to bows, I've literally used a bow in my solo flawless run of Shattered Throne. I used a bow in my solo flawless run of Pit of Heresy. So like I find uses, and they give a little bit of a perk for that 10% PvE buff. And I was like, that's literally why I put minor spec on my bow in Pit of Heresy, because I couldn't one-shot the Acolytes, because it's like, that just doesn't feel right, and they have this little sliver left. So at least somebody probably has that same feeling as I do on that one. But again, Sneak Bow, they better not do more perks like Sneak Bow, otherwise I will not be thrilled. And I guess this is my biggest thing. Like, they talk about dynamic sway reduction, and that's the big one between multiple people. They're saying, hey, dynamic sway reduction is already pretty good. Now it adds 10 stability over time on top of the accuracy. So this thing's actually going to be really solid for things that are like continually firing bullets a lot, and auto rifles that take advantage of this are going to be just like potential lasers. If you get the right recoil, they're going to be potentially good. Like, that's one of the good ones. Pulse monitor. You take critical damage. Now, if you swap your shotgun, it's literally fully reloaded.
Right.
So, like, it auto reloads, plus 50 handling, faster weapon speed, works on stowed weapons. I was like, cool. Hipfire grip. I literally look at them like, I don't even care. It's adding like 1.2 times aim assist, plus 15 aim assist, plus 1.7 degrees precision hipfire angle threshold. And I'm going, that is just a sentence in itself just to say all of that. And I'm like, hold on, what? The average person reads this and going, excuse me? This is the point where, like, I've seen the Mercules, like the range, cone, and accuracy graph that they'll do, and like Fallout's used it before, and they've gone through, and those guys have done this. And I was like, this is one of those points, as you said, if it was a different company putting this thing out, hey, this is what we mean. If you're up above this character here at this point, you would see this like this. If hipfire grip was on, your reticle would be this much tighter. It would, and that would be a way to like show visually to say
visual representation would be nice.
Hey, you're like 2 pixels off of this dude's head, but you have that extra hipfire grip aim assist. Guess what? That bullet's gonna curve and still hit him. Without it, you would have missed that shot, and it would have been body.
But what if Bungie's thinking about the community, and guys like Fallout Mercury can have our video? That's what it is. They're thinking about the community, so we can
They're letting them make the content as opposed to clearly explaining it to us. They could still make the video, because not everybody reads this stuff and people just follow them. But like, if I sit there and read literally plus 1.7 degrees precision hip fire angle threshold, nowhere in the game is that stated at all. Much less when they talk about dynamic sway reduction. They say add 10 stability. Okay, I understand what that stat means. Overtime in addition to accuracy. Where is accuracy stated in the game?
Nowhere. It's on the range stat.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which is not a number in the game.
Right. So it's like dynamic sway reduction has potential to be cool. If you get an auto rifle with it, hold the hell onto that one, because that has potential. Pulse monitor. You know, that point, if you're going to be running, you know, an auto rifle with dynamic sway reduction and pulse monitor, and you like shotgunning, hey, I'm running in, hey, I got switch shotgun. Like, you're going to be fully loaded, good to go, has potential. Hipfire grip and sneak bow could have cared less. Like, if you're going to drop me some perk retuning knowledge, don't give me the two that are like, people don't really tend to care about them. That's just me.
I hear you, brother. I hear you.
So, a couple more things. New perks. We're going to be getting 2 new perks on 2 reprised weapons next season. Sorry about my tone of voice, but that's pretty obvious. Laying it on real thick there.
Thick. There you go.
The 2 new perks are called Iron Grip and Iron Gaze. Any thoughts of what those might do?
Ready?
I would imagine that Iron Grip has something to do with stability or accuracy, and then Gaze is probably like a range thing.
Yeah.
But I don't know what they would do, because I don't know. Like I read this and was kind of like, meh. Next paragraph. Like, it's really unfortunate that Iron Banner has just been like, they're. It's like that like cup in the office that you like flick little pieces of like paper into, and that's like, they're like, we'll just flick this paper. It's like, we'll put new perks on this. That'll satisfy the Iron Banner problem, and we'll bring back this armor from how many seasons has it been? It's been 8 seasons. It's fine now. We can bring it back. Like that's I mean, it's again a really facetious way of looking at it, but like. That's how I feel they kind of treat Iron Banner, and it's really unfortunate, because I like Iron Banner for the most part. SBMM kind of sucks, but it's I don't know. What do you guys think the perks are? I'm just ranting at this point.
No, I'm very vague.
Stability in either a scope on a sniper rifle or zoom. Again, it's like I don't know what they're coming on. Grip seems like Iron Grip. Am I like, is handling lower, but stability's like just rock solid. Or I don't know if it's a give and take situation. Iron Gaze. We have the Hake one where you highlight people. Like, I mean, I don't know if they'd ever even get that creative. Honestly, I just picture a specific scope. Like, I don't know, as a perk especially, not like a scope or a reload perk, like an actual perk is weird. I don't know what that's going to do. I'm very confused on that one.
Yeah, pretty much the same.
I look at them and I put them in fear. No.
Yeah, like, I almost feel maybe Gaze. The only thing I would take a specific shot at is maybe Gaze is, well, they already have no distractions. Because I was already thinking about, like, what's the word, flinch kind of perk. But, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, they don't like flinch perks.
They don't like flinch perks. Yeah.
Flinch perks are no in Bungie's book.
Yeah, look, I'm gonna be positive and give them a little benefit of the doubt that hopefully these might be cool. But it's like Teddy said. It's just like, it's just, throw something Mind Banner's way, that flick, and it's just like, all right, it's supposed to satisfy us. We'll see. Hopefully these perks can be really cool, and we come up with some meta around it tied to specific weapons and guns and stuff. And I would just hope that while we're getting these perks, that we get new weapons inside Iron Banner to use these perks, because that to me would be the ultimate coolness.
They're two reprised weapons. They're new. They're new for now. They're new this season.
I think it was a huge slap in the face. I think it was this season that the armor they brought back was the second time it was brought back, and that was like, again, I'm not a developer, so I'm not gonna pretend like I understand how long it takes to make an armor set.
Year 2, and year 3.
But like, really, dude, year 3 of Iron Banner and Destiny 1 was so good. And the armor and the weapon, like even if you just brought that back,
bring those back. That's what I'm saying.
I would be like, cool. I don't need a lore reason for it to be back. I don't need to know that it was Ephrodite that brought it back. Just I don't need Saladin to have new voice lines. Yes. Just put that stuff in the game. Like, you already made it. Clever Dragon was awesome. Like, the Saladin's visual.
Where's my Nerwin's Mercy at? Let's go.
Like there's so much they could do, and it's just like, they're always so close but so far, and it's so frustrating.
So frustrating. And again, they're just talking about reissue, and it's like they're sitting on gold mines of things in the vault that literally could be reissued, and the community would have no issue. Right? No problem with seeing anything. Like Teddy said, we wouldn't care about no lore attached to it. We would just be so happy to see it and excited. It's just mind-boggling to me, like, to me, I think sometimes, like, again, it could be resource issue, but it just seems that certain things just sit and just decay, and we're like, what's going on with this? How about giving this some love? And it just,
DMG explained this season that, and this was shocking to me to hear this, that
what'd he say?
Making the trials weapons was a choice between having that or ritual weapons this season, which is why we didn't get ritual weapons this season besides the bow, which was then later confirmed that the bow was actually supposed to be part of last season, but they cut it to introduce it this season, which means the bow wasn't even made for this season. So their resources, I guess, are so tight that they had to choose between trials weapons and ritual weapons. And that, when he said that, I was like, whoa, like, what?
Put you in perspective.
I mean, I guess if it's that hard to make interesting weapons, then, I mean, perks are part of the problem too. Right. But and trials is a whole nother like slew of issues that I don't know if you guys want to get into that, but that was just like a whole other problem.
We've hammered that nail hard.
Yeah, unfortunate for them, but
yeah. I was like, and we talked about it before when they said, "Hey, this will be coming in season 13," and you're like, hope you're happy for about 6+ months because it's not changing. And we also said it's like, hey, the cheating needs fixed, and if they fix a bunch of other things, they understand, like the loot and those other things, maybe tokens aren't in there, the bounties come back, all those things like come with fresh stuff. That would give it a little bit of life, because like if you just fix like, hey, the trials loot pool is better, well, cheating's still here, I don't care. Like they're moving stuff farther out. Right. So let me get through these last. I was just going to get through these last two little buffs. And then I'm just literally going to tie this all into the big boy topic.
Let's go.
So the upcoming archetype buffs that we've got. Slug shotguns getting PvE damage of 30%.
Woo!
Cool.
Like.
Thank you.
Praise.
High impact pulse rifles. Picture your Redrix. Which you won't be using for very long, but still.
I know.
High impact pulses and this is again PvP, so technically you probably could for a while. Not aspirational. High impact pulse rifles. This is where some of the numbers that they go through, they're so small. I remember the auto rifle buff of like 0.003% or whatever. Do you remember that buff? And like
yeah, I remember that.
It's like D1 or year 1 of this or whatever.
Yeah, I remember that.
But yeah, high impact pulse rifles damage per bullet is from 21 to 22. Now there's a crit multiplier in there, but they said this changes from 6 crits to 5 crits in one body to make them a little easier to use. But technically the kill time is not different. You just have a little more forgiveness in it. Bow PvE damage versus miners 10%. Thank you. That one we talked about. This one I'm sure is going to piss off a lot of people because the way I read this, it's going the direction people do not want.
Let's go. Let's get to it.
Sniper rifles. Community feedback has been that Revoker and Beloved dominate. Yes, we are fully aware of that one.
We're aware of
and
that.
Looking at analytics, they account for 86% of sniper usage in the Crucible. And if we include other low zoom sniper rifles, that number gets even higher. Why is it higher? Because a lot of people use low zoom scopes and they prefer them. We're specifically looking at how zoom translates into ease of use for sniper rifles. We're looking into investigating changes that make choosing a sniper rifle zoom more of an interesting choice.
Yeah.
Now, I know how I read that. I just want to see how you read it. I literally laid on the way I read that sentence is how I read it. But how did you guys take that one?
Say it specifically first, then we go.
Okay, for me, the way I read that is they're going to be like, if you want to use low zoom, the perks that you get to go with that one are not going to be good. Like if your sniper rifle has a low zoom scope option, good luck finding snapshot sights, opening shot. None of the good perks are going to come with that low zoom. Because if you use the high zoom, hey, then maybe you can use those more fun perks. But that sniper ease of use, about to get harder use. That's the way I read it.
That's exactly how I read it too. It's like, oh, you want to use a low zoom scope because our maps are really small? Sorry, those coveted perks that you like, you're not going to be able to use those. And guess what? We're sunsetting the old ones, so you can't use those anymore. Oh, sorry. Like, ooh, what a disappointment. What kind of... So, there's this little known franchise called Halo.
Yes.
What? I don't think... I think the studio called Bungie made it.
I think the studio made it. I think this studio.
Yeah. And in that game, in those games,
just Salt Bay in here all night long.
There's a sniper rifle in that game, and also a little known fact about that sniper rifle: it has double zoom.
Yes.
You can zoom in twice.
Yes. Magnification. Yes.
Why is that just not an option?
Ooh.
Like.
Yeah.
I've been playing a lot of Halo lately, specifically Master Chief Collection. My brother's a diehard Halo fan.
Nice.
That's like his thing, and so we've been going through Halo 1, 2, Reach and stuff, and particularly Reach, playing through Reach again because that's the closest thing to Destiny, since Destiny 1 was built off the Reach engine and Destiny 2 built off that. I noticed a lot of similarities that I had not noticed previously playing through the game again, and particularly how the weapons behave. So, for example, the grenade launcher in that game is basically mountaintop, or it's a breach load. It's a breach load.
Dope.
Yeah, because you have to release the trigger to blow it up. But the animation is basically mountaintop's reload, and just like the way like scout rifles in that game, the DMR feels the same as scout rifles, stuff like that. And Reach is not a perfect game by any means. But looking at that game, and was like, you got a lot of stuff right here, and then you got a lot of stuff right in Destiny 1. Why is it wrong in Destiny 2? It's been 10 years. Like, it's just so frustrating. But what do you think about the sniper rifle changes?
I mean, you guys are on it. I mean, the only thing I would say is just that, this is their way of saying that they're going. When I read the word, we're going to make interesting change and make more sniper rifles more of an interesting choice. To me, then it also means that these zooms that are hated, they are going to force those perks that we like on those items so that it'll say, okay, well, now I gotta take it. You know what I'm saying? And again, it kind of goes back to your point, Teddy, of controlling. You know what I'm saying? And forcing us down paths that necessarily, like, they're looking at trends. They're very analytical. They're very statistical. We know they're looking at usage rates, all these things, and they're seeing that these other zooms are not being utilized, right? So this is their way of trying to force us into that direction. And it's just, it's just what they do.
That being said, the other zooms aren't necessarily bad in their current state. The problem is that the PvP maps aren't designed for those zooms, particularly the long range ones. I guess the medium one you could argue that for certain maps.
Right.
And again, like a medium zoom sniper with snapshot, opening shot, or whatever, quick draw, whatever perks you need on it. I'm not a PvP buff, so I'm just kind of vaguely talking here, but like it's still usable with the medium zoom. Maybe not necessarily the long range zoom, but you could use it on certain maps. So yeah, again, just reading this, it just sounds like it's like, all right, you want the short one? You're gonna have to use these crummy perks that we made.
You get hipfire grip and pulse monitor.
Oh my god!
That is a possible role on some snipers.
Oh my, that is awful. That's awful. That is not appealing.
But I was like, I mean, I've been trying to gather as much community feedback as I can. I've listened to like every podcast about sunsetting I've listened to. When it comes to like this one, I was like asked across in Fallout, and they're like, don't, and even Fallout was just like, don't go too crazy with our sniper rifles. It was that kind of tone. It's like it's there.
And we just came off the sniper rifle PvE.
Oh yeah, smash
damage nerf.
Yep.
Continue.
Which was a buff that they undid 6 months later.
Yeah. Speaking of buffs that they undid a little bit later, were the adaptive auto rifle buffs. That's your 600. Arc Logic, Suros, the Gnawing Hunger, the ones everybody are using right now. We're not rolling back the Season 10 buff per se, but we're adjusting the tuning a little to give other auto rifle subframes a chance to shine. So that one's coming back down some. Not all, but some. Hand cannons, they said they were valuing hand cannon subfamilies. People have been asking about 110s and 140s forever because...
Yeah, facts.
As an example, we're breaking out aggressive hand cannons to let us tune their range independently of others. So like Duke potentially is going to have a farther range, for example.
So Kreml's dagger, all that, the 110s. The 110s need love.
I kind of thought they could do this already, I feel like, but I guess like not...
Yeah, so I think the 110s.
It's not going to matter, though, because they're all going to get sunset.
Oh, yeah. I've got like 12 Dukes, and I went through and cleared out most of them, and still all of those, like, hey, if you like the Duke. So,
just going to have to re-earn them again.
The cynical side of us knows. Come on, y'all. We know new content is coming where they're going to introduce new 110s to make them... It's the cycle. We know how this goes. They brace... It sounds awful now, which it does. But they're bracing for impact because then it comes, we see the new stuff and it's something we remember and it's pretty color, it's shiny, it looks cool, and it's tied to some artifact mechanic. We'll come up with new strats, and I get it. It just, it's what we go through. It's what we go through being a Destiny fan.
So all of this ties back into last week, and now that we've got another party in here, it's all about the sunsetting. So before we get into... kind of how some of this stuff ties in, I wanted to get kind of Teddy's thoughts just on the general thoughts of sunsetting, any like thoughts you've heard from other people, and just kind of where you stand at this point on just the sunsetting going into year 12, knowing what's not going to be available, kind of knowing what is, that type of stuff. Just where are you standing on the sunsetting idea for where we're at?
So my initial reaction when I read it was I was very upset. Now I was not really playing a lot at that time. I was really busy with work, and so I was just kind of taking a break from Destiny in general. And it's been a while since I've taken a break this long, and it's honestly felt really good. But when I first read that, I was like, I'm not okay with this. And the more I read other people's takes on it, and the more I kind of thought about it as I would kind of go about my day, the more I kind of like leaned towards the middle, but I'm still not okay with it. Right. I understand the argument for it.
Yes.
And I understand why people have a very emotional attachment to certain things, or I guess an emotional argument, if you will, for it. But the cynical side of me is thinking, this is Bungie's way of just controlling everything I do in this game and forcing me to replay stuff. And we touched on this earlier, but I would have been mostly fine with it if they just didn't reintroduce anything.
Thank you.
And again, we haven't. So this is like broadening the entire scope of what I'm going to talk about, but like we haven't seen it yet. Everything they're talking about is just on paper, and it could change. Unlikely to change given the way they report information to us. But it could change, and it might not be as bad as we think it is. So I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt, because I always give them the benefit of the doubt. But I'm also going to be pretty critical of it when it sucks, or if it sucks, or if it's just not executed right. That being said, so there's this argument. I wanted to get into this. So there's this argument that the Magic the Gathering argument that constantly gets thrown around, or the analogy, I guess, where people compare this to Magic the Gathering. Now, I never really played Magic the Gathering until about a year and a half ago. I played a little bit. Stephen Rue and James Duggan. I was visiting San Francisco, and we went to like a Magic. They play a lot. We went to like a Magic Pack event, and very similar to Yu-Gi-Oh, which I come from a Yu-Gi-Oh background, which I'll also touch on because that game functions very differently than Magic, and I think that's actually a better analogy than the Magic set rotation.
That's what Drewski talked about, actually. So keep going.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So in Magic the Gathering, there's what's called set rotation, and other card games like Hearthstone also implement this. I haven't played Hearthstone, so I'm not super familiar with that. But the gist of it is that every X amount of time, there is a set of cards that are legal in a certain format, and then after that time, those cards get rotated out. Sound familiar? It sounds like sunsetting, right?
Sounds like sunsetting.
And Luke Smith even compared it to Magic the Gathering in his director's cut. Where I think this analogy is really bad from a like logical standpoint, given my background in logic and my philosophical I think it's a bad analogy because you're talking about a card game that is a turn-based game. When you're playing a turn-based game in a We'll remove the tournament setting for a second because there's a time limit in tournaments. But when you're playing a turn-based game, you have all the time in the world, like chess, to make your move, to make your decision and pick what you want. And you know that in the confines of that specific game that you're playing, these cards will all work. But in the context of Destiny, that's different. Because in Destiny, it's not a turn-based game. I don't have all the time in the world to make a decision, and I need to actively think about my loadout based on the activity I'm going into. And so that kind of bothered me a little bit when people were kept comparing it to Magic in that sense.
I hate when people do one-for-one comparison to other games.
From a little logic lesson here for a second, analogies are actually are like the worst type of argument in general, because analogies are really easy to break down. Yeah, it's you can make all the you can compare two things and have all the similarities in the world, but if I find one difference, your argument automatically becomes weaker than it was.
You don't say. So you don't say it's a one-to-one relationship to WoW? Because, I hear that on this podcast all the time. Because in WoW, we did... Oh, God. But continue, preach. That was awesome. That was awesome, ED. Continue.
Bungie keeps comparing... They keep calling... Well, they recently, in the last year, have started calling Destiny an MMO.
Finally.
But finally, right? We kept wanting them to do that, and... I don't know if this is true or not, but I feel like it was Activision who didn't want that label on the game because they were afraid of the connotations.
That's possible.
And I understand that from a pure standpoint. And I was glad when they called it an MMO, finally, after all this time. Yes. But they like want it to be an MMO, but then do things that are MMO-ish and also that are not MMO-ish that don't work in Destiny. So... It's kind of weird. Like the whole idea of sunsetting comes from the MMO RPG background and card games as well. Going back to the Magic thing real quick. So Magic the Gathering was made by Wizards of the Coast, and they have like I think 20 or 30 years of experience, and so they understand very well how to rotate things in and out of the game. Now, where I'll bring Yu-Gi-Oh in, Yu-Gi-Oh is kind of a unique card game, and I actually have experience with this because I played Yu-Gi-Oh competitively, and I actually recently
shout out to Addict. He's the same way he played competitively. I learned about the game through him. Continue.
Yeah, I played. I actually just recently got back into it in the last year, and I stopped because of the virus, unfortunately, because you can't go to events. But I'm still keeping up with it and kind of like going into it. And so Yu-Gi-Oh is very unique because it actually doesn't have a set rotation. It has what's called a forbidden and banned list. It's where every few months, 3 to 6 months, depending on whatever Konami feels like or what's going on in the meta, they will either just outright ban a card or limit a card or semi-limit a card. And it could come back in the future, and that's kind of the crazy part about Yu-Gi-Oh is that technically you could use any card in the game so long as it's not banned in an official tournament, or even if you're just playing like casual, as long as you're following that ban list. There's only one ban list. There's 2 official formats, but nobody plays the second of the 2. They just play the one that has the ban and limited list. And so what makes this super unique is Konami every so often will unban really old cards that at the time that they were banned were really, really broken and like super, super overpowered. But then they unban them, and almost always, not always, but almost always, they end up being either kind of useless because they got power crept by something that was better, or they end up becoming good but not broken because other cards have been made to balance that that act. And obviously, just like Magic the Gathering, Wizards of the Coast, Konami has just as much as experience with, or close to, as with making the card game. So they understand most of the time. They have made some mistakes in the past. Most of the time with how to make a balanced card. So this is where I'm getting to. This is long-winded, but I'm
loving it. You're bringing it all the way in.
I'm getting the Bungie part. So
let's
Bungie,
get it, baby. Woo!
Bungie, based on prior experience and how they've nerfed and buffed things, I don't feel like they fully understand how to balance the problematic things in the game. They've gotten close in the current state of Destiny, but I feel like they always just swing a little bit too far one way or the other. And so when you talk about set rotation in the context of Magic, it doesn't necessarily apply one for one to Destiny. Yes, there are similarities, and yes, it could work. But where I sort of I've lost faith in them is that they will reintroduce perks that I care about on guns, or even for that matter, reintroduce the guns that matter. Because for me, as an optimal player, if I have a grenade launcher that is, we'll say hypothetically, 80% of the max possible damage I could do with that grenade launcher.
Right.
I want to go grind for the grenade launcher that is best in the game with the optimal perks.
Efficiency.
And when I finally earn that, I want to be able to use it for as long as possible. I understand I'm in the minority when I say this, because from based on the arguments I was seeing, or the takes I was seeing for people, it seems like people want new, interesting things to chase. But for me, I just want to get that 1% better when I get on. Like I want to grind for maybe a better Mindbender, so I want to grind for better Spirit Rations, and that's the content that's in the game. So I almost want them to do something like what Yu-Gi-Oh does, where rather than doing a full set rotation, they just ban certain guns or armor from specific activities. I don't know if that's possible based on their.
Well, they have a in your defense, they have a when an exotic armor is broken, we immediately get the grade out.
They disable it.
They can shut it out. So I mean, again, in practice, it seems as if I don't know, from a development standpoint, they can do that with each individual, legendary and stuff like that. But we have examples like when Felwinter was busted, boom, shut down. I'm waiting for Antius Wards. Thank you. Continue though.
So I mean, I'm getting to the end of it, but like it. I think I'm in the super minority when I say this, but that's just I want them to do something more like that. And I think Call of Duty did something similar in a couple games ago. I don't really follow Call of Duty, where they essentially in certain game modes, the players in the lobby could like vote to ban a gun. But I would say, like, as a hypothetical example, let's say this weekend of Trials, hard light is banned. Right. You can't put hard light on. You just can't launch. You can't launch Trials. You put it on, and you can't put it on during it, and that way you get more like what's the word? It's more narrowed down data that they can understand rather than having the set rotation. I feel like the set rotation solution is basically their solution to saying this is how we're going to make you keep playing the game. And the super cynical side of me is this is how we're going to make you keep playing the game in order to maybe make you spend money on the Eververse store. And we're kind of fixing it so we got some goodwill back. I've been like very cynical this whole podcast, but I just want to say, like, I respect them a lot, and I understand where they're coming from. But it's also, I have to look at it that way because I'm on the outside. Right. And so, or we're all on the outside, like we don't have really that much inside knowledge, and they don't explain things. So
what I would pay to be on the inside.
Yeah. Like if I was just a fly on the wall, I just want to understand so many aspects of this game, and it sucks that Guardian Cons are happening this year because I was really looking forward to it.
I know.
Yeah.
Talking to the devs, like.
Yep.
Dude, I know. That's the part I missed the most. You're still the analytical discussion.
No, that was it. I just wanted to wrap it up because I was very long-winded for a kind of half-baked explanation.
No, you were good. They were calling you Dr. Drew and Destiny. I was loving what you was. I was loving it, man. Listen, man, you heard some points here. It is very interesting to me. The thought process behind the balancing. Is very interesting to see. I think I
don't envy them. Like, I understand it's a hard problem.
It is a very difficult process. Because on one hand, I do understand your points, and those things could solve a lot. Because a lot of these things, if you look at other games in the relationship Destiny and you apply them here, some of that stuff could apply. I think also it's like there's a bunch of hats here. There's like the marketing hat. How do we sell this product? How do we get them excited? Whatever. Then you got the balancing hat, you know what I'm saying? Which is like, okay, how do we make this where it's fair and things, compete and stuff like that? And then it's also like, the investment hat now, I feel the investment hat is super threatened right now. And that it's going to be polarizing, man, because there's guys like you and there's guys that I know that are also hardcore lovers of this game. And I get hit with the same thing. Like, COG, all they do is taking stuff away and then bring it back and then taking, like, it's trying to justify certain decisions are getting harder and harder. And again, like E said, I don't want to make this seem like, oh, this is so easy. All you got to do is, I'm never going to disrespect them in that way. But yeah, man, it is one of those things where community feedback, I feel, is getting better. I also feel, though, to E's point, we're still in this super vague area of still not knowing. We've been in this game for so long. It is unacceptable to me that we still don't know how exactly, accuracy works or certain specific perks work. Why the secrecy behind the curtain on this? We've been with you guys this long. Why do you think this knowledge is not worth disseminating? Or like, or is it like you disrespect the intelligence of the game? I don't understand the thought process to not explain in painful detail, whether it be through visual representation or something. You need to get people to understand first what it is you're doing, what these perks mean, then why you're doing what you're doing. It's a combination. You can't just give me one or the other, and then us as the community, we're trying to figure this out. Like, you've got to still, again, we take 2 steps forward, 1 step back. You do certain things with transparency that I love, and the Luke Smith director's cuts I love. I do. It's just that we've got to still let the curtain back a little bit more and explain. But E, where you at with this, man? I feel I'm talking now, like, for a long time.
Letting everybody have their pieces on it. So I've listened to as many different thoughts on this as I can. Between the anti-sunsetting, those that are in favor of it, those that are in fear of what could go wrong, those are just like, it's got to happen. Some that are like, if executed correctly, it's like, picture 6 months after the fall expansion when all this stuff comes out. It's either going to be looked at and be like, hey, they nailed it, or holy crap, that was a train wreck. It does. Some people are like, it's going to be one of those. Some people are like, where's the middle ground for this one? And it seems like there's not a lot of that. Mine's a weird point of like, be it Magic, be it World of Warcraft, be it any of those references of things not being available forever. We had 3 years of Destiny 1. Potentially that was going to be 3 years of Destiny 2 before Destiny 3 came. So we're in uncharted territory, period. We don't, they are trying to navigate a ship that, for one, they're just potentially getting their feet under them at this point after they, paid $160 million to get away from Activision. They bought their own IP to make sure they actually could do it. And then this season feels like a football team's building season. That's the best way I can. It seems like they're trying to be like, okay, we got to look at the draft. We may not have that many wins. Come on, fans, stick with us. It's going to be a rough season.
This the 4-12.
Yeah, this is your Detroit Lions 4-12. This is
we going for the number 1 pick for instance.
We're going for the picks. Okay. We're gonna go.
I got you. We're sliding back in the draft right now.
I have hope this fall expansion with things they're building, like the pyramid ships, one way or the other, are going to be involved. Now, I have this weird little thing about the pyramid ship wall that I was thinking about recently. I was like, I'm wondering, depending on what comes next season, which may or may not be related to the quest that you haven't seen yet, if it's not related to that, still I'm wondering, like, I wonder if where the pyramid ship's in-game is, because everybody keeps saying Titan, because theoretically by math, that's where they're going to end up at the end of the season. But theory, what are they really going for? The big thing that brought him here in the first place, the Traveler. So if you look on the map wall, it's just about as far for another season for them to go from the wall in. Now, the bunkers are going to go away, which recently just kind of nixed that theory because we wouldn't actually be able to look in the bunkers. And I honestly really hate the bunkers are going away because they could leave the one on the moon tied to the quest and not actually delete the quest, but that's the whole FOMO thing that they have learned about. I mean, when you take World of Warcraft and you get a new expansion, you go from level 60, I've played, and that's the whole thing when it comes to, like, respecting players' investment. You go through the 40-person raid, you do this stuff. You're going for the top level. You have spent all of this time getting the top level gear. You have a while to enjoy it. It could be, like, 2 years for an expansion, and they have, like, patches and other stuff that comes, and things do get, left behind, basically. But, as you have also said before, it's like there is a true, in this game, they nailed the literal psychological attachment to a weapon. It's different of shooting a Scaithlock, a Duke, a my Go Figure, your Bygones, whatever it is, versus axe with stats and numbers on it that my little character, sprite is going to walk around with. That's one thing. But on the other side, there is a point of I'm used to working insanely hard for this one thing, and then new expansion comes out and there's a lot of new stuff. But this is where my honestly worry is starting to arise it's what they can deliver.
Worried.
No, it's just it's how it's delivered. And I think that's where a lot of people are landing is how does it land? And this specifically, this TWAB actually made me a little more hesitant than some of the other ones because you take the perks. You take things like, hey, reload speed. Some people are like, well, why do you have to knock it down versus bring some other things just up to match it more powerfully? You talk about power creep to a point, but I mean, a lot of people right now have said Outlaw doesn't feel overbearing. Like the reload, you want those, but again, Recluse is too much, but also, Sneak Bow sucks. So, I mean, it's true, but somewhere it's like, would I rather have the Sneak Bows come up? Like, if you're crouching, your reload speed is twice as fast. Be like, dude, if you can actually crouch and go pew, pew, pew. Like, if they bring some stuff up to be more powerful, but not to a point of being broken. And I guess if there's trying to still bring things down, my worry at this point is how exciting are the perks going to be in the future?
Right. Yes.
How creative can they get if, they have reload listed in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different ways that they're even adjusting here, and all of these reload perks are potentially going to be brought down. More things are being brought down. We've got dynamic sway reduction, which is the only thing that actually sounds positive. Pulse monitors, pulse monitor is situational, but general use dynamics, the only one that's that actually has potential to bring it up. How many more, honestly, I'm wondering, are there going to be new archetypes? We got the Waveframe grenade launcher, for example. Right. Martyr's Retribution. That was a new thing. Okay.
Yeah, I like that. That was cool.
I mean, honestly, at some point, I would like to see that if it takes them making new weapon styles. What if there's an arc version of that? You shoot out this little thing, and it's like a little storm grenade. There's a void one. Somebody was like, hey, you shoot out like a black hole effect for void. And some of those could be just unique weapons for them to add into. But again, when it comes to the perks, if we're going to be getting new weapons, and same thing for World, if you get new stuff, it's got to feel fresh in a different way. This expansion has felt the emptiest in changes of it. We got the moon. No, this whole Shadowkeep expansion. We didn't get major new perks. Literally, the Waveframe grenade launcher for the past year is probably the most unique thing that we've seen.
Yeah, but I think in their defense, didn't they get Vorpal and Fireland? No, Fireland did exist.
There were quite a few new perks added last season. Some of Clown Cartridge existed in Destiny 1. Yeah.
So
that was reprisal, but we did get a fair amount of new perks. I would say about the same amount that we got in Season of the Drifter, which was the first time they introduced new perks since Forsaken, I think, at that point. But to your point, which I think I touched on this, is my biggest fear is that I'm afraid that they sunsetting in theory will work, but if they don't reintroduce perks or functions that are equivalent or better in some way that incentivize me to keep playing the game, then it's the Thanos paradox problem that I mentioned on the last time. I already knew what existed, and you took it away from me, and now I have to get it again. Which that's where I have the problem. If you reskin it, that doesn't fix the issue. It has to be something better. Right. And then you can take it away from me because then I understand, I'm going to get something better in the future. Right. But to just take it away from me and give me a Recluse 2.0 that it's effectively the same thing, that doesn't cut it for me. And definitely. We have to see it. We have to see it. I'm being a little hard on them, but
no.
They just don't communicate this stuff. It's so frustrating.
I was and that's the thing for me is the worry is they reissue something that I've already got. And, when you say the Yu-Gi-Oh! Ban list, if I have an old spare rations and that comes back into being an available weapon, I can yoink it out of the vault and I can use it again, as opposed to we've reissued spare rations. And this is what it was, I think, Destiny Firing Range. They were talking about, I don't want to have to look at a god roll in my vault that I'm just I've held on to this thing. It's amazing, cool. I don't want to see Spare Rations 2.0.
Yeah, have that same.
And have to go through it again. So the reissues is one side, but honestly, and this is just where it's on Bungie. We've played a lot. We've gone through a lot of different things. And my hope that the fall expansion is huge. Like, because I feel at this point it has to be. Shadowkeep was 5 missions, and yes, we got the moon, but like it didn't touch the Forsaken or the Taken Kings. It wasn't there.
It was good though. It was good. It was good, but it wasn't Forsaken level. Yeah.
But I was like, I mean,
it was like Rise of Iron.
Yeah,
it was Rise of Iron-ish. Yeah,
it was your Rise of Iron. And at this point, since there doesn't seem to be a Destiny 3 on the horizon, we still need that Taken King or Forsaken moment. Right. Whether it be, the reintroduction of the Forsaken subclasses and the the weapons with random rolls. We need some substantial change, because right now, if it's just like 2 perks, a reload, and a scope, if it's these 2 perks, and if they do give more of just 2 perks, I am just worried as they're trying to keep things so tight right now that like if they do introduce something, will it live too strong for too long and then go away? Or just I'm worried that a lot of the stuff that we get introduced outside of like maybe the pursuit weapon or something of that nature are not going to be enough. Right. It's not going to be strong enough, not going to be standout enough for the stuff that's being sunset, as you guys have all been saying. So it's on Bungie for me at this point to prove me wrong, because I don't want to keep having Whisper even in the game, but I was like, I don't want to keep having these things keep coming forward. Like at some point I do want to go after new stuff. I'm of that opinion. I just want to make sure the new stuff is something I desire. That's my one major worry. And seeing the stuff of them slowly inching these perks down and closer, but not anything getting much more powerful. As you said, we've been at our weakest point for a little while now. Right. If we keep feeling weaker and weaker, my brother said it too. He's like, my Hammerhead, my Jotun, my Blast Furnace are all going away. Jotun's going to stay, but the other 2, Hammerhead and Blast Furnace, I love the way I sound, I love the way I feel, and everything. They feel like they're getting weaker, and the enemies seem to keep getting stronger. And he's like, I feel like I feel like I'm not that strong in the game, and I never get to feel that strong. And I'm worried with what's introduced in the future. I don't know if we're going to get that feeling like, Guardians actually come back. So I know it's a long-winded way to get there for everybody, so I'm sorry. Apparently this has been the long-winded discussion all night long for everybody. But
no, this is
just good. Mine has been reading this one and thinking about this one. I still want the sunsetting, but I wonder if they're going to be able to deliver stuff that's truly as desirable as I would like in my head.
No, I get it. I mean, both of you guys have been fantastic points, and that is, the trust we have to have in them, right? At this point, that's just where we are. We are literally hoping that, what is it, that old Spider-Man expression, with great power comes great responsibility. If you want to take away this stuff, we're trusting you to do the right things to make sure that these new things that are introduced are super desirable. Because I'm of the mindset of Teddy in this respect. I'm going to first chase after things that are the most efficient, right? That's me. If the numbers break down and this new weapon is desirable because you can do either DPS or whatever, right? That's number one. The second reason for me is, I do like the power fantasy, and I do like just cool things, right? You want things to be cool. You want things to be exciting. Like when that wave, Breach Grade Launcher, the Marty's was introduced, that was new, that was fresh. I hadn't seen anything like that, so it's on them to have this pool reintroduced, and stuff like that. Now, where I'm also worried, is like, if you're going to tell me in my vault, I have, like right now, basically the way I play is, even there's archetypes that I know in the game that are terrible right now.
Scout rifles, rocket launchers. Not mentioned at all, by the way. I did want to say that.
Not mentioned at all, but we ain't gonna. But scout, like when I get a god roll drop of those, I immediately put it into the vault, because my feeling is the hope of that sandbox change that buffs those archetypes, right?
I do the same thing.
Yeah, like I'm like, okay, I don't use this. This is a terrible archetype. Yeah. But man, I got this, breach right here that's got a god roll. I got this one, this 140, this 110 hand cannon that's god roll. If they ever come back, you know what I'm saying? Like, boom. So now, with the sunsetting, those are gonna go. So I done held on to that. And the hope, is that when the new things get, reintroduced, when new things that get come out, we're gonna get stuff just as good. And again, the issue I also have is the reissue, man, because it's not a good feel. Like I said, if you had it, you take it away, and then you bring it right back without the emotional attachment, without the skin, without the... and then here's one point no one's talking about. When they introduced, when you get a weapon, and you got that little slider, and it says, track your PvP kills, track your PvE kills. What's the point now? You know what I'm saying?
Oh, for your masterworking, yeah.
The thought process then is we want you to have an emotional attachment to this gun. We want this to feel like it's yours. These are Bungie's words, right? This whole thought process completely contradicts that, right? There are going to be finite number of kills before we're going to have to get rid of it. So, again...
So I've got a couple points to that. So first off, I just recently hit, like about a month or two ago, 100,000 kills on Recluse in PvE.
Wow.
And again, I understand that I'm in the super minority when I say this, but to me, I don't need interesting guns to play the game. I just need the most optimal thing for the thing I'm doing, and I'm totally satisfied with that. So at the moment, it's typically Mountaintop Recluse Anarchy is usually the loadout for PvE, which is ironic because that was the loadout before sniper rifles got buffed. And then they got buffed, and we're like, oh, Izanagi's Burden is not the best thing. And then they got unnerfed, and it's like, well, they didn't nerf these, so I guess this is fine now. So I understand why Recluse has to go, but it also really sucks because I have 100,000 kills on that gun. So like... what's the point now? To me, it's just like, well, I might as well just delete this. Like, I had an attachment to it. I'm not going to, but like...
Now, Teddy, what if they reintroduce your Recluse 2 seasons?
I mean, I'm going to get it, but I'm going to be pissed because it's going to be like, why did you do this? My second follow-up point was, you said that, Cognito, you said that you hoard weapons like I do. Like, if I get a god roll of anything, I generally keep it, even if the weapon is absolute trash. Because there's always this chance, and I've been doing this since Destiny 1, there's always this chance that gun could get buffed in the future, or that archetype could get buffed in the future, and then I'm sitting on a gold nugget, basically. Like that gun might not even be earnable at this point in the game. And I don't know if that's happened to either of you, but when it's happened to me, that's like one of the greatest feelings in Destiny.
My spare rations was exactly that. I was like, we did Reckoning, I went through, and I was like, I need one of those. And then somebody's like later, hey, this thing's apparently really hot right now. This is the roll you're looking for. And I posted it on Twitter, and they're like, I have this one, is this? And they're like, that's the god roll. Leave me the hell alone. And I was just like, and it was just sitting there. And it's like, okay. So the other side of this, do you have any other points?
I had one more. It's kind of related. So... if you've noticed, Deej and the other PR managers don't say this anymore, but they used to say it's always a conversation. It's always a back and forth. But Bungie's never actually done that. If you really think about how they've communicated stuff to us in this game, the entire lifespan of Destiny, even before Destiny came out, all they do is tell us something, we react to it, negative or positive, and with the exception of a few instances such as the artifact, they generally don't change what they told us. They just tell us what they're doing, and then we have to accept it the way it is, good or bad. That sucks, in my opinion. Like, that is such a, like, I'm sorry, but that is like such a backwards way of doing it. The way you should be doing it, like other developers like DICE or 343, is, hey, we're thinking about changing swords. What do you think about these potential changes? And then the community goes, well, I speedrun with this sword, and that would ruin the experience of speedrunning, which has become a kind of a close-knit but large community of Destiny. In fact, the recent GDQ featured the Last Witch speedrun, which had been the first time Destiny showed up. Like, that was super cool to watch. But you can't do that anymore because they nerfed Worldline Zero that like 0.1% of all players were using to speedrun the game. For no reason. Like, nobody asked for that. Nobody wanted that. It wasn't necessarily breaking the game. Like, yes, you could get out of bounds, but it didn't like help you in any way for anything that was major. And so stuff like that, like when they announced the sword changes, I was like, cool, they're going to change swords. And then immediately it was like, why wouldn't you tell me this 6 months ago when you were thinking about this, so that I could like, or the community in general could be like, that's good or bad. And it's, and to their credit, they are talking about sunsetting, I guess, early, since it's going to happen in September. But I don't think anything will change based on our feedback. Like, and if it does, we'll never know because they'll never tell us that, which is super frustrating. Like, that like irks me so much internally, because it's just like no offense to them, but it's like bad PR in a way, like bad PR management. It's like, just explain to me, because the same thing with the perk stuff, like, just go to the dev that made the perk or handles that perk and tell them, write a 1-paragraph explanation of how moving target works. Cool. Now I have a reference for the next 5 years on how moving target works, and I don't have to like go to the podcast of John Wisniewski explaining it in Destiny 1 for whatever. That's the one they always reference from Crucible Radio. Yeah. It's the only time that range was ever explained, and they have to reference that. And it's like, that's crazy to me that was the only time that was explained.
I'm going to keep it real. Like, there's still perks I truly don't understand the entire nature of them. You know what I'm saying? There's still perks that I don't know. And to your last point, I'll get back to you. I know you was going to talk. Is you said a point, like I said, I know I'm in the maybe 1%, but it's such a feeling, like you said earlier, when, again, you stash that non-used archetype. And for me, you know what it really hit? It was when 600s got buffed. And I pulled out like a God rolled Gilliard from Black Armory. And I'm like, oh, I'm ready, baby. Like, you know what I'm saying? It rewarded me because I recognized it. And so with this thing, you know, again, am I going to adjust and move forward? Absolutely. But it does hurt that aspect, you know what I'm saying, of holding on to stuff. And then with the hope that if the sandbox changes, you'll be able to utilize these things. It's almost like a reward for your diligence and for your, you know what I'm saying, for your time investment.
It's a loot game. Like, you know, I'm going to keep this brief, but like, I honestly feel like they do not respect the player's time, despite saying that a lot.
And that's actually leading in. That was leading into actually what was my point.
I don't think they do.
Like, so no, like that's one of the biggest things for a counter to people not liking weapon sunsetting. So you take something like Mindbenders, which is the perfect example. It's in a Nightfall, the drop rate's really low, then you have to try and get the right roll, and it's a pain in the ass strike, and the dude hasn't, like, there's so many things wrong with the Mindbenders grind. That is one of those where they're like, Fallout talked about it forever, that he didn't have a Mindbenders for the longest time. He says he's got one, I think, now, but like, how many times? Or the people who go and play Reckoning, like, forget which one said it, and they're like, I start my stream with that every day working on certain grinds, and they're like, I'm trying to get this thing. So the argument there, and it might have been Cami Cakes, I'm trying to reference all the right people so I don't steal anybody's thoughts, but the idea behind that is like, okay, so if you're going to make things have a window of aspirational usability, then the grind for those needs to be a lot more like player driven, and you have choice over what you're going for. If I do a flawless raid, exotic from the raid. Like, if I do the hardest difficulty, take something like Menagerie, which is still the pinnacle of all activities, just because that was so amazing. But take the Chalice, and I was honestly wondering if you could take that a step further. Okay, so if you do normal Menagerie, you might be able to narrow it down to the auto rifle. Okay, so if you do Heroic Menagerie, then maybe you can narrow it down to the range masterwork or the archetype that you go for, and like the harder difficulty you do of something, so that people who have the more you can like narrow down in what you're grinding for. So then the casual player is like, hey, I can go get this auto rifle. Cool, I got one. Nice. They may not have as many people to go for, but again, they're also not trying to be the ultra efficient Teddy who's doing that. But he's like, hey, if Teddy's like, hey, I got like 5 people, we're going to go into Menagerie, we're going to crush this thing, no one's going to die, I can, if you get Flawless, you can put in a 5th gem, and you can get like almost the exact perfect roll you're going for, you can go like deep on that like driven dive, just because your skill gets you there. And guess what? To get to that Flawless run, you've probably run that thing 20 times in the first place between deaths and other things, so you've already grinded some in the first place, and then when you finally do get, it's like the carrot at the end of the tunnel, or a carrot at the end of it, but you know if I can get good enough, if my skill can get there, then I know I can achieve what I'm going for. And that was the thing when it comes to World of Warcraft. There's a bow for a hunter, and I literally would log on to 4 other people's accounts to get this bow for them, because the quest you had to go through, I don't know if you know what the word kiting means, do you? If I say that?
I do, yeah.
You do, you don't. So basically what it means... Yeah, basically what it means is I'm constantly running away from... I'm basically dragging somebody like a kite behind me, but I'm always making sure I'm keeping myself at distance. And the way you had to get this bow is you had to do it 4 times, and hell no, the emblem wasn't enough. For Pit of Heresy, just like solo flawless Pit of Heresy... That's another one. Like, you go solo flawless Pit of Heresy. I get an emblem. I'm like, you're telling me I can't get like a piece of armor that drops with like 12 armor, and I look like, you know, I look like Zolnik, like that type of stuff. But the idea of kiting is like, it was hard enough that most people are like, I even got the first part of the quest, but I can't go finish this quest. And I'm like, all right, so I went through, I figured out how to do it, and I ended up helping other people, but you had to kite 4 people through like half of a World of Warcraft zone which is huge. And you had to do it in 4 different places around the world. That was a really hard thing to go for. But as I finally figured it out, and I spent hours on that stupid quest, I got it. Right. That was one of the best bows at the time, and I could achieve it if I was skilled enough to do it. Same principle there is like if there is heroic insert seasonal activity, if there is a hard version of that in Season 12 when this sunsetting happens, if I can go after that, then at least I know I can get that reward. So the biggest thing people want is the player choice to say, hey, if the Mindbenders is there, and I want a good roll, how do I get the curated? Well, you can run the Nightfall flawlessly.
Right.
Crap, that's going to be hard. But if I do it, I know I can get the curated opening shot Mindbenders.
Exactly.
And there is a limit to how far that RNG can screw you. So that's one of those things when they were talking about the biggest piece of them spending 4 months or logging in on Reckoning every single day on their stream and not getting what they're going for, it makes the sunsetting feel worse because it shortens the timetable they can use it by however long it takes to grind. If when it releases, like, dude, we're ultra skilled, we knocked it out, cool, I can enjoy it for 11 months and 2 weeks because I got it in the first 2 weeks of the new season, then they know it's like, hey, I've got this cool done, and they're going to keep stuff going. So it's the way people go after content in the fall is going to be another determination. For one, it's got to be desirable, and two, the player choice of how they go after it, not just flipping a coin. And again, this is why me reading this TWAB of the world loot pool seems bigger and a little more varied as opposed to just the Gambit guns or whatever it is. Like, it just gave me weird feelings on this one. So I do want the sunsetting, but man, they have to deliver. So sorry for again. It's a long podcast, guys.
No, this is fire. This is fire. The last point is, you know, and you're nailing a lot of things, E. And the thing is, we gotta call it how it is. It's also time. Remember, I preached this during my initial pushback with retirement was just time investment, man. You've got to respect players' time. You know what I mean? You have to. And let's be real, right? When time investment is not respected, it leads to, disgust, and it leads to people exiting the game. We, 2 of 3 here have not played for a certain reason. We consider ourselves hardcore, you know what I'm saying, for that reason. So it's up to them, you know what I'm saying? They have to knock this out the park. They have to nail it, because ultimately what will happen, shout out to Gadal, shout out to a lot of people, is people say, hey, I'm not feeling respected, I'm out. You know what I'm saying? That's just it. That's just how it works. You know what I'm saying? And it's sad, but they have to nail it, because you can't do this to people. It's like cyclical abuse. You cannot continue to do this to people and expect, hey, baby, take me back. Hey, baby, take me back. No, at the point, people are going to say no, but you know what I'm saying? And that's, again, I don't want to disrespect them. I don't envy their position. None of this stuff is easy and flip switch. I don't want to make it seem that way, but the onus is on them to really, really knock this out. You know what I'm saying? Because again, if you do, it's proven. We come back, we're excited, we like the new direction, you know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. So it's a tough thing, because, and shout out to Prescott, you made a good point. The other thing too, what I will admit, because again, we're a community, we don't know everything. There's some things that in our minds we may think is the right way to go. You know what I'm saying? And for their thought process, because they have the data that they're not telling us, or they have, you know what I'm saying? They may have legitimate reasons, right, as to why certain things can't happen and so on and so forth. But because of the lack of transparency behind the curtain, we don't know, which leads us to speculate to think that they don't know what they're doing. So again, help us help you. You know what I'm saying? Like, what you gonna say? Like, hey, somebody mentioned in the chat, community summit. These are the things. Have us feel like we're having that dialogue, like Teddy said, as opposed to Daddy said no. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, Deej said no.
Yeah, Deej said no. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to.
Who is your daddy and what does he do?
They've got to do a better job, man. We all pulling for this thing, but we'll see, man. We'll see.
So yeah, in Destiny 1, there's a lot of points I want to make, and I'm trying to keep up with everything, because you guys said some pretty good stuff. So in Destiny 1, there was this problem of, I don't like using this phrase, but this is what was happening. The rich got richer, right? Whereas the more you played the game and the more hardcore you were at Destiny 1, you got better and better stuff. And it was very hard. the barrier to entry was very high. And I had anecdotal experience with this with two of my really good friends who jumped onto the game shortly after Taken King came out. And they played for a bit, and they're not the greatest gamers. Like, they played very casually, but they enjoyed what they played. And they're two big Borderlands fans, so they come from a Borderlands background. And they just wanted something new at the time, because Borderlands was kind of in a rut during that era.
Right.
And they kind of gave up on the game around a little past the Taken Spring update, because it was just too confusing, and they ultimately couldn't end up. They weren't able to continually pursue the hardcore activities to keep getting the better loot, trials, raids, all that stuff that we're getting. And so here comes D2, which obviously was designed with the intention for casual players and to broaden the scope. And I feel like the current state of Destiny 2 is really, really suffering from that design philosophy, because they're so afraid to give a good player a reward for doing something difficult. And it's so bizarre to me, because it ultimately, especially with sunsetting, it won't matter, right? Like if I do the Grandmaster Nightfall, and the Grandmaster Nightfall, if I do it in a certain amount of time with a certain amount of score, it guarantees me, some really cool drop in strikes that currently don't exist, because all the drops and strikes are just not good. I should get that drop. And if someone, this is going to be hard to hear for some people, but if you're not capable of doing that, whether you can't get the people to do it or you're not skilled enough, you don't deserve that. Like, it's just that simple. Like, if you're not good enough to go to the lighthouse, this is another prime example. Sorry, you don't deserve the loot. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't try. You should have the mindset of trying to get better. I can attest to this, because in Destiny 1, I was terrible at PvP. And the only reason I didn't even touch PvP before Trials of Osiris came out. Wolves. I played Iron Banner once, and I made the mistake of not getting Felwinters during the Iron Banner, because that was the busted Felwinters. That was the only reason I played, and I didn't get it. And then Trials of Osiris came out, and I was like, I want to get better at PvP, because I'm really bad at this game PvP. And by the end of Destiny 1, I got a little bit better. And then Destiny 2 rolled around, and there wasn't a lot to do during the first year of Destiny 2, so I played quite a bit of PvP. I played Trials, and I got better. I just kept getting better. I would not say I'm a good player, but I definitely... I didn't necessarily have the urge to get better, but I wanted to get better, because there was loot tied behind doing these things.
There was an incentive. There was an incentive.
There was a carrot that I needed to chase.
The time investment, the difficulty investment.
And so, again, if you aren't skilled enough to get the reward, I don't think you deserve it. And for whatever reason in Destiny 2, I feel like Bungie is just so afraid to give that. I feel like that's why Trials Flawless doesn't have anything special tied behind it, because they're like, if we put something special behind it, people are going to get super upset and they're not going to play our game. Newsflash, people aren't playing Trials of Osiris because a bunch of other things are wrong with it. So that doesn't even matter in the grand scheme of the picture. They're going to fix it.
People are still pissed about the chest not being valuable.
You
get like exotics, and you get same Nightfall, both like Grandmaster Nightfalls and Trials. You get like materials that you would need to use to get there in the first place to be as efficient as possible, and rolls on exotics, which we've already you're going in there with an exotic loadout in the first place. So you get nothing of benefit. And the raids are the same way, like Garden of Salvation, like perks. Nothing has stood out on raid weapon perks since probably D1, I feel like.
Facts.
I mean,
Midnight Coup and Nation of Beasts, I would say, are the only two raid, excluding exotics, are the only two raid guns that have mattered at some point during Destiny 2's lifespan. Facts. The rest of them could have been good or might have been good, but they weren't like... I mean, you weren't going to put them on. Like, let's be honest.
And oh man, you couldn't have said it any better, because Yeah, like, I mean, you take you take that really hard thing, and wow, I'm talking about, hey, that's one of the best bows in the game. I had to work my ass off for it, but I did. Same thing. You do a raid, you do trials. Like me, like going to flawless trials seems like you. I would have to start dedicating weekends and working for it, and the progress would hopefully come. But that's one of those I would have to work on improving on. But even if you like have a decent group and can run into a raid and you get through most of the encounters right now, I think one of the reasons I haven't raided as much is because the incentive isn't there when you can still get a rampage. When my Go Figure, my dad bought a rifle that I got a lot of crap for, that thing is so damn good.
So good.
The way it feels for me, are there weapons? There's a Rampage Outlaw Pulse Rifle in Garden of Salvation. It might be the same, but not better. And that's one of the weird arguments for sunsetting is like these lateral upgrades. I'm like, I don't want lateral upgrades anymore. I am tired of those. I don't want another one of those. So I know you're itching to say something. So what do you got?
I'm going to give it back to you, Teddy. I just want to say, because you nailed one point that I'm absolutely loving what you said, which is, again, we know how they started with D2 with the, I want to call it, the casualization, so to speak.
I hate using that word.
I hate to use the word, but
that's the best way to say it. Yeah,
that's just to say, right? Because in D1, like you said, the issue was when the hardcore, again, sort of called the rich got richer, right? They didn't, I guess, like that, and then maybe the casuals kind of veered away because they felt if they couldn't keep up, boom. But now sunsetting kind of alleviates that. So let's bring back that, super reward, that incentive for the hardcore content to be better, right? Because at the end of the day, if they're so worried about that, you're going to sunset this stuff anyway. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's why it should swing back in the pendulum in that direction for the pinnacle activity, things like that. But I'm going to give it back to you because you was on fire. You were about to say
something. The final point I wanted to make, and you kind of alluded to this. So yeah, it would be great when sunsetting happens for me. If I'm capable of doing the activity to get the weapon. But I'll present you with a scenario that I know will happen to me because my RNG is terrible. What happens when 6 months into the year, I finally get that gun from season 12 that I'd been chasing, and now I only get to use it for 6 months as opposed to 11 months, right? Like think about Felwinters, for example. Felwinters came out at the very end of the season, but it's still tied to this season, which means you don't get to use it through the following season and the next year that takes place at the same time. It only will be good up to that season,
right?
Which means you don't actually get a year, you get 9 months to use it. So it's kind of this weird scenario, and think about the world loophole too. I still don't have a god roll last hope. I'm probably never going to get a god roll last hope because the chances of me getting the drop first of all are astronomical, and then getting the 2 right perks on it are astronomical. It's just not going to happen. So what happens when me as a hardcore player who will dedicate a crap ton of time to doing the activity that I want the thing from, but I don't get it, and then it goes away and I never got it? That's what I'm really worried about, because they do this already kind of with triumphs, and I don't like that. It's just leave it. I understand certain things can't be left in the game, but for the most part, just make triumphs that are capable of staying in the game, and it's fine. Guns are a little bit different, but my greater point was that scenario is going to happen, not just to me. It's going to happen to a lot of people.
Absolutely.
And it's going to be terrible. We'd have to see it happen, and unfortunately, their iterative process just operates at that speed. But it will happen, and it'll be interesting to see how they handle that issue. I think that's where the reissuing of guns might come into play. But what also irks me about that is they mentioned that before Shadowkeep came out, the artifact mods would be experimental mods, and some of them were, some of them weren't. And they said that after the season, they would take a look at the mods and then reintroduce certain mods based on usage back into the loot pool. They haven't done that at all, and the artifact has basically just been the same mods every single season with the exception of a few. And then obviously the guns change depending on what we're supposed to use. So if you apply that same logic and philosophy to the reissuing of guns, does that just mean you're just not going to reissue them because you've already failed to do it once? I don't know. It's I'm very worried, but at the end of the day, I'm still going to play the game, and I'm still going to, hopefully enjoy it. But they always had this monkey paw problem of there's always a catch, and that's the part they never tell us. And then think about Armor 2.0. We talked about this when I was on the podcast last time. But when we got to Armor 2.0, we were like, oh, this is super exciting. This is awesome. But then there was a catch. It had to have a certain elemental affinity, and the mods were tied to certain element, and then you had to get all this perfectly rolled armor, and the game was working against you to not give you good rolls, and they do these weird things where it's why? It's okay. It's okay if Glad beats your strike in 5 minutes. It's fine. That, ironically, him beating it in 5 minutes is watchable instead of me going through it with 3 people in 40 minutes. That's not watchable because I'm sitting in a corner trying not to die from the overpowered champion because I'm forced to use a really bad gun. That's not watchable.
Sidearms, my God.
Sidearms
and submachine guns for barrier.
X streamers doing it solo in under 10 minutes is way more interesting, which is so ironic.
Bungie does it. They don't like it. They don't like it. Their keywords in the TWAB was they don't like the idea of us melting stuff. So I mean, it's
just such a weird
people are always going to be able to do that to a point. And again, this is one of the things that killed Division 1 early on. They tailored to the streamers. It was the crafting material that was a lot of the streamers who'd played a lot, they had a whole lot of that material, so they were able to craft and work on towards these god rolls. But then you have like 95% of the population who doesn't live in it. Like most of us who are probably listening to this anyway are more on the hardcore side, as opposed to the other 500,000 people who might play this game. And then you have the majority of them that are just like, hey, I'm happy I got something. And then there's another person who blows away. There are speedruns for Mario 64 because people can backflip crap through walls and stuff like that. And that's just like, they have figured out the ways to beat the game. And at some point, you're not going to be able to nail down every single thing that pops up to a point. And they do. It's like they want to control that to a very, very weird level. And it's just as like, it's...
I nailed it with the control.
I really feel bad for the speedrunning community in Destiny, because so in Destiny 1, I sort of casually speedran strikes, and there was a fun aspect to it, especially because I feel like the modifiers in Destiny 1 for the most part were better.
They're so much better.
Where are those? Yeah, I don't know, man. There's so many things in Destiny 1 that we still don't have in Destiny 2, and it's year 4 of Destiny 2.
Yeah,
but that's a whole nother problem.
That's a 3-hour podcast for another day.
I would speedrun strikes in Destiny 1, and I enjoyed it. And in Destiny 2, we would occasionally do that. Like when Warden of Nothing came up the first time and we got the double drops, we actually had fun. We had fun speedrunning it.
Oh my god.
We had so much fun speedrunning that. Like our first run was 30 minutes, and then we got it down to 25 minutes, and then we kind of changed our loadouts, and we got it sub 20, and then we're like, all right, could we do sub 15? And we looked up streamers or whoever speedrunners, and they were doing it like 12 or 13 minutes, or maybe even sub 10. I don't know, whatever, right? And we weren't aiming for that. It was just like a personal goal of like, how fast can we do this? Because at the end of the day, it's about efficiency, right? Like I want to get the max amount of drops in the max amount of time, or the least amount of time. And there was something fun about that. Like I had a really good time. It wasn't even the drops. Like having Ascendant shards and all my characters postmasters and in my inventory capped out. That's great and all, and prisms too. But at the end of the day, like I was having fun doing challenging content. Right. Shocking. Like it's such a mind-boggling concept, I guess. And then they immediately had to go and patch it. Well, I guess it's not technically patched. I think it still works. Yeah. But it just I don't like. I feel really bad when they nerfed Worldline 0 because it was such a small number of players that were they were. I'll use the word exploiting because it is technically a glitch, but like it wasn't doing like. And from a speedrunning standpoint, from a community standpoint, Destiny, you can never go back to an older version of Destiny. Like you can't uninstall the patch and boot up
and go
Destiny.
back to how it used to be. Yeah.
So it's always you always have to play in the moment, which basically means that all the speedruns from that patch are just nothing. Like they don't matter anymore.
They're just cemented, and
and that's super unfortunate. Again, I'm kind of going on a tangent, but like it goes back to that like control aspect of the game. Like I almost feel like they're like the proctor on the playground that's trying to keep all the kids safe in the sandbox, but ultimately you just got to let the kids out of the sandbox. Like it's okay. Like the kids are gonna grow up. It's fine.
I love this.
It's
funny.
I'm very frustrated. Like if you can't tell, it's just
I hear it in your voice, brother.
Like I'm very passionate about this, but it's so annoying when we're entering year 6 of this game, and it's or year year 7. 7. And come on, like
just that's the only reason why I worry recently. That's the only reason. There's only a certain amount of time people will continue to deal with things they don't like. And again, it seems cyclical. We understand it's a live service game. There's going to be peaks, there's going to be valleys. I understand that. It's just, I do worry about them sometimes, on their own. You know what I'm saying? Now, let's, we got to talk about it, and seeing them be able to recover and get this thing right. So, again, onus is on them, to take all this feedback, to implement it in a correct way, to respect time investment, to respect rewards for pinnacle content. The onus is on them, because my biggest fear, is now that we've kind of assuming that there's not going to be D3 in the immediate future. It's going to be, you've got to wow people every time when you come back now.
I mean, that's why I said, like, the WoW expansions, like, you introduce, like, vastly new things and systems. And that's why I was like, the Taken Kings and the Forsakens upended many systems in the game, built new things. Like the questification, terrible word, but the questification of Destiny in Taken King is what everybody loved. Hey, these things have like 6 steps. I got to go here, here, here. There's a lot of crap to do. That's what people wanted. Forsaken, they got the random rolls in there. Then we got like 2 new destinations. And then we've got the Forsaken subclasses, which are a new introduction of like 9 more ways to play this game. And Shadowkeep, I love like this year's narrative stuff. In theory, depending on how the payoff is, which I'm waiting for, has potential to be freaking amazing. Potential, like pyramid ships, like walk in on the Shadowkeep. I'm like, holy crap, that's the pyramid ship. Oh my god, going inside there, having that happen. Garden of Salvation, talking to yourself. Spoilers already, but yeah, that's fine. Yeah, but it's like that stuff's been quite cool, and I've enjoyed that. But on the other side, like when you say raid weapons haven't been that fun, they've been steering away from pinnacle weapons to rituals. Now we're going to pursuits and all of those other things. We're steering away from what incentivizes us to play the game. And at some point, this isn't meant to be it. The story is cool, but you got to have the reason for me to play to experience the story. Because I want to experience the story, but I want to have fun while I do it. And as what you guys were talking about on swords, I will honestly say I've used a sword more this season than I ever have. Now, I know the changes screwed World Line Zero. I get that for the speedrunning community, but also I can do 50% of damage by myself with a certain build. And again, when you talk about the mods for the artifact, like that one this season, both Sword Scavenger being enhanced, and then the one where like if you equip a sword, you take less damage, and it costs 6 energy. That is a perfect risk reward. Normally, I will say those things are expensive, but if I'm going to run heavy sword, I got to be up close in general. I should probably take less damage if I'm in there, and that's one of those that's one of the first times I want that thing reissued because that makes swords fun.
I'm worried about swords next season.
Yeah, swords are going to be like. Scavenger is gone. The perk so I can survive more is gone. The infinite swinging animation helps for damage because you can use them more, especially with like relentless strikes. But again, if they take away the swords that have relentless strikes and they sunset those and they get rid of that, then you have your ammo coming up again and Scavenger's not. It's just this So I wanted to say that. But I was like, I love how much I've used swords this season. It does suck it screwed the speedrunning community, but the functionality of swords for me has actually been more fun for the average player. So that's one of those to where I understand the community being screwed, and that does kind of suck, but the way that works for the rest of the game has actually been kind of cool. So I get both sides of that one, but I also wanted to say it's like what they did to swords for me was actually a lot of fun. So
yeah, man. Look, we got to see how this thing plays out. In fairness, again, I try to be fair with context. There's still stuff we still don't know that should be introduced. We could just hope, you know what I'm saying, that our fears and things that we're concerned about is also paid attention to with the introduction of these new things. And hopefully we can sit there and go, oh, now I see why this tribe, they did X, Y, and Z because this was happening and this way. And they just didn't, they should have smoke on it, but they just didn't at the time. So that's what I got, man. That's what I got. Hopefully, chat, you guys staying with us, man. Sorry about that.
Yeah,
we were rocking.
It's been we love y'all.
We try to stay to that.
We went #long point. But Teddy, you got anything else for this? I know we've belabored every point to death. You got anything else you want to add while you're here?
I am optimistic to an extent, but they have they have this track record of there's always a but, and. Or it's the monkey paw. Yeah.
Have you guys seen How I Met Your Mother?
Yes.
And they're like, where's the poop, Robin? Where's the poop?
Yeah.
That's a good show, by the way.
Good show.
It's just there's always a catch, and that's what worries me. But I don't know. I was so upset at first, and then talking to my friends and other people about it, I just kind of was like, you know what? I'm just gonna let them figure it out.
Yeah.
And if it's not fun, it's not fun. Yeah. I'm still gonna play the game. I'll be vocal about it. Be respectful, obviously.
Absolutely.
People that are harassing the devs online, I think terrible human beings.
That's
I don't care if you know. There are other games.
Yeah, they are normal people just like you and I. Don't do that. That's really bad. But Destiny's a very unique game.
It's a very unique game.
And I think it could benefit from a game that would bring competition, because for the most part, Destiny has been unchallenged in the space.
Survived. They've knocked out all.
Like,
there's nothing in the space that they can compete with.
None have survived.
Yeah. Everybody has bent the knee.
Division 1 was supposed to be the Destiny killer, right? And then you know, they may had a bunch of screw ups. Anthem flopped. I guess you could say maybe Warframe kind of scratches that same itch. Borderlands to a certain extent also kind of scratches it, but no game has really come close to what Destiny's achieved. And
talk about it, flex on them. Damn on them.
You got to give them credit where credit's due. I've actually recently, in the last 2 months,
credit.
I've been watching a bunch of the GDC talks where Bungie has talked about different aspects of Destiny over the years, and also Halo Reach, because it goes that far back. Yeah. And I'm super nerdy like that, and I really like that technical stuff. And for me, it came from this place of like, I got so frustrated with the game that it was like, all right, I'm technical, I can understand this stuff. Let me go watch an hour and a half video of some Bungie dev explaining how zones work, or in Reach they explained how they basically built the networking infrastructure for that game, and how they figured out the big problem of like packet latency and different like communication problems. And it gets like super technical and super in depth, and that's the kind of stuff I like. I understand that not everyone's into that.
No, I like that too.
Just having someone explain that to me, and then even if it was a Destiny 1 thing or a Halo Reach thing, I could go, okay, some version of this, a better version of this, exists in Destiny, so I can apply that logic to Destiny and go, okay, that's why this doesn't work the way it should work, or that's why it doesn't function the way that we want it to function, or whatever, right? Like, there's a bunch of explanations for it, and that kind of helped me a little bit and gave me a little more faith. And but then all this stuff happened with this season, and that kind of just put like a big damper on it. That frustration actually came from the Trials issue. I think is why I started looking that stuff up. But no, just to close it off, like, it's Destiny goes through these cycles. It happens. They're gonna release a trailer in like a week or two or something, and we're gonna be
right there.
Yeah, we're gonna forget about everything.
We're gonna be right there.
It always happens. They make really hype trailers, and I'm guilty of it. Where I see it, I'm like, oh, the eye candy! Like, I'm super excited now.
Oh, the last song in the trailer for Season of the Worthy, I literally looked up the band, looked what it's from. They just have like epic music. I've like listened to that randomly now. It's like, so yeah, whoever makes their trailers,
marketing team is good.
Pay them whatever they need, because they're worth it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They do a fantastic job.
That team can't get fired.
Yeah. So other than that, no, it's but it's been good. There's been a lot of good discussion. So,
hello, this is dope.
Yeah, well, we can work on wrapping this up. Chat, you guys have been amazing. Hang tight, guys. I do want to raid somebody on stream after this, so I'm going to send you guys over to send some love. So don't bail on us yet. At least send some love, blow it up for him. So, but before we do, we're going to wrap our side up. So Teddy, where they can find you to get your thoughts, opinions, and of course your knowledge of the world of Destiny. You'll have opinions out there. Where can they find you, sir?
You can find me on Twitter at TeasingTeddy. It is TeasingTeddy, all one word. I was streaming a little bit in January and February, then the pandemic happened and I got super busy. So you can find me on Twitch also at TeasingTeddy, but I'm probably not going to stream very often, especially with all the game announcements coming up here. Work's about to kick up for me, so
we got you just at the right time.
Man, I got you before.
But you can always tweet at me on Twitter. I'm usually pretty good at responding about things. Just I ask you to be respectful. If you're not, I will belittle you in some way, because I've got a degree in logic, so like I'm not gonna remove all emotion from the heated argument. But yeah, you can tweet at me, you can message me. I'm always down to talk about Destiny. My Twitter is mostly just Destiny stuff and like me making memes or tweeting memes to people that I work with or know. So but thank you for having me. It's been another good podcast. So and it's an interesting time for Destiny.
Indeed. Yep, we've been through a few of these. Cognito, what else you got, sir? What are you doing this weekend, since we're in the weekend now?
Yeah, man. Look, man, you already know Iron Law Podcast, Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern. No guest this week. Just going to be talking about the latest stuff in the gaming community, all the stuff that's going on, delays and next generation hype and SSDs and throughput speeds and I/O and stuff. You want to get technical and also.
I can't wait till we get more info on that stuff.
Yeah, so we're gonna talk about that stuff soon. And again, if you can't catch it on YouTube, we are also multi-streaming. So on our Iron Law Podcast, the same account here on Twitch, you can catch us there live. Really appreciate the support, and of course, lordsofgaming.net, man. You guys have been amazing with that support for the site. We've been really picking up, And again, if you're into statues, please check out my brother King David, King of Statues, man. He's got an amazing, if you're into like Marvel Comics, DC Comics, cartoons, stuff like that. He's got an amazing Chitara statue from Thundercats that I'm going crazy. So check that out on the Iron Lord Podcast YouTube, man. And yeah, man. And last thing I want to say, I know we talked at nausea about Destiny, is just look, I'm in this place now where it's like, I'm not going to complain. If I'm not happy, I'm literally killing my backlog. I'm proud of myself right now. I am killing my backlog. So, when they do something good that I like, I jump right back in. And hopefully that'll be the transitionary piece going in, to the next season. So that's what I got on that. But, E-Man, what's going on with you, brother?
Yeah, I am like 3 missions away from finishing Neo. I know the final boss of all of those games is going to be a brutal one, so stay tuned on Twitch for me working on that one. I don't honestly know, and I'm probably going to have to ask these two afterwards if I can squeeze Final Fantasy between, but as work's picking up for me, I might have to just kind of chill, honestly. I was like, I'm going to probably have to chill, wait for the new season, then The Last of Us, so that stuff will be coming. But you guys know we're here on Twitch. If you catch this in audio form, find all of these awesome people. Find them on Twitter, find them on Twitch. Go find Iron Lord's podcast. They're live. Sunday mornings are amazing. It's a great way to spend a couple hours, just chill, leave that little earbud in, and you're good to go. But for me as well on YouTube, like 2,500 away from 50K on subs. So you guys have been awesome. Like that's a big threshold that I can't wait to get through. So that's all I got. When we get done with this, guys, we are also going to go raid a guy that I'm going to work on getting on the podcast. His name is Amaze. And if you've ever seen him like respond to a big raid, he will literally freestyle rap like for a couple minutes.
Oh, we're gonna get some bars. Let's go.
So yeah, he's awesome. So go follow him. It's UH. It's weirdly spelled, but it's UHMAAYYZE. So that's who we're gonna raid after this one. And just Teddy, we're going to do the last word sign off here again as well. So for episode 104, May 22nd, you guys have all been amazing. Thank you, chat. Thank you, Teddy. It has been a pleasure having you, Cognito, of course, the co-host with the co-most. And thank you very much. We'll see you guys very soon. And it has been the last word.